Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on May the 17th, 2016. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me as always, it's alive! It's alive!
Caffeine Rage. And hopefully that'll also be said for the podcast as well.
Hopefully. On today's show, we will of course be talking about the games we played this week and last week as well. We're going to be discussing our podcast's growth and direction that we're taking on certain aspects. Squad has come under fire. We'll have our weekly community corner and the Steam weekly deals discussion.
Well, can we really say weekly right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Every week we do something.
Yeah, unfortunately we didn't get it out there last week.
Right, so I know what happened. In the Franken episode, I was like, I don't know what happened. Well, I figured it out. In Audacity, you can clear background noise. And it has two settings on it, reduce and residue. And if you accidentally click residue and run it, I don't know, scrubs out all of the audio. I don't know what residue is actually supposed to do. But it completely...
From what after you told me about that, I looked into it a bit more, and it's basically like a second layer of noise reduction to basically get rid of, residue from the noise reduction. So I'm guessing it's more of an extreme version of noise reduction. To be honest, I've never used it because usually noise reduction is good enough, and then I go in and hit any odd points myself manually. When the noise gate doesn't hit it itself, so...
Yeah, that's normally what I do, but I don't know why it was like that. I probably, when we were talking after we finished recording the episode, I just, didn't check it, which was totally my fault, and I do apologize, but that's why we have things like the Franken episode.
Yeah, and this also makes new recording standards and practices, because new regulations is always made from the blood of failed episodes, right?
Yeah, you only make changes after you failed horribly.
Yeah, why do you think there's helmet laws?
Because people lost their heads.
Sometimes quite literally.
Indeed. I did say that was going to be after the games that we played, but since we kind of opened up with that, do you just want to go ahead and talk about our podcast stuff?
Yeah, let's go ahead, and then we'll go into games we played. Changing things up.
Yeah, let's change it up. So, what made me think about this is that we have had some people tweet into us or mention to us that our episodes, their file sizes are huge, which we export in at 128K bit rate.
Yeah,
as
which
opposed
I've
to the standard
done a little
64.
bit more. Yeah, and I've done a bit more research on that, and basically, the only time you really want to export in that is when you're a musical podcast, and I think we would lose all our listeners if we did a musical episode.
Oh, yeah. Unless we've got, some masochists that listen and want to have their ears flogged by our voices. Our singing voices, that is. So,
I don't know. Sometimes it feels like just normal voices for me. I still don't hear what Biff talks about the entire time.
Well, that's because you're you. You don't get to listen to you the way we listen to you.
Oh, no. I do edit my audio, so I do hear that.
I suppose, but you're still you. You sound weird to yourself. I don't know. I've gotten used to it, but I sound weird to myself when I first started doing this. But we're already getting off topic. It took us all of 2 minutes?
Oh, I'm at 4 minutes on the counter.
Okay. But, so anyways, because
of... drink, by the way.
Because of that, we're going to start... Well, we're going to test it on this episode. We're going to export the podcast at 64K, or a 64K bit rate, I should say.
Yeah, I believe it's hertz is the way they measure it. I'm not 100% sure, because even though I do a lot of stuff in Audacity, I'm still exporting all my stuff. The audio stuff goes to Jared as high quality as I could get it, which is still MP3, but that's beside the point. But for all my other stuff, I'm actually working in WAV files, so I never really messed around with the bit rates of different audio files.
But anyways, hopefully that will cut our episode size down by half. I mean, half the bit rate.
Theory.
In theory. But we don't know what this is actually going to do to our quality. I actually did some testing this week, messing around with it. Some old recordings that I have of us. They sound the same to me, but I don't have an ear for this sort of thing. So if you are someone who has an ear for it, let us know if the change is really bad, or if certain sections, for some reason, like music that we use or whatever, sounds really bad. We can keep exporting at 128K, but just to try and get the file size down, if we don't lose that much quality, I think it's worth it, because eventually we do want to get away from Internet Archive.
Yeah, which I was, the reason why we started on this was I did a little bit of just simple math and figured out that for something like Libsyn, which may or may not be what we eventually move to, we would have to be nearly the top tier on that service.
Which is expensive.
Which just to, and that's just literally maintaining what we do right now. If we do any bonus episodes, it would actually knock us up another tier, because we were kind of borderline on that to begin with. So, yeah, it's rather expensive.
Right. So, cutting our episode, or cutting the file sizes in half, or really by any decent margin, would be very useful for future podcast growth.
The other option is also just to cut all the digressions, but what's the fun in that?
Yeah, what's the fun in that? That's half of our, that literally is half of our show. I was kind of using that as a figure of speech, but no, literally like half of our show is us going off in left field and talking about something else.
It must be fun for you just listening again. It's like, what the hell are we talking about this?
Sometimes I forget what we talked about, and so I'm listening to it editing, and I might laugh at something, like it's the first time I'd ever heard it before, despite the fact that we actually said it. Or I might go, what in the hell were we thinking with that? But, I mean, they get left in, or they get sent over to the Franken episode, so eventually everybody gets to hear what we were doing. But yeah, so podcast growth. So I was looking at our analytic numbers, and on average, we're gaining 5 new unique IP addresses downloading or subscribing to us on iTunes or whatever like that per episode.
Which to add to that, I should probably go to my YouTube channel and get those numbers while you talk away.
Yeah, currently we've got an average of 36 listens per item, but I mean that's an average across all of our episodes. All of our older content has got 10-ish listens, and then you start getting into the more recent stuff, and you're getting into the into the 50, 60, 70 unique listens. We've got one episode actually that has almost 100 listens, and that's not including the YouTube numbers. So,
yeah, and I'm looking at this is literally just my YouTube numbers, and they're all over the place. The most recent episode, which is literally the Franken episode, which is more of a clip episode than anything, is 4 views. But then episode 18 with Kyle, Monkey's Paw, is my alternate title for it, is 35 views.
Man, Kyle's popular with you on YouTube.
And let's see, I'm just looking at the top ones here. Episode 13, You Have a Choice, is 29. Brand Destruction, episode 12, is 27. Our pilot episode is actually at 38 on my channel.
Nice.
But then I get oddball episodes where episode 9 has 8.
Yeah, I'm pulling up all of mine right now.
Yeah, episode 16 has 9, so it's all over the place, but it's still a fair chunk of views there.
Yeah,
but also may just come down to, one, I have at least a small fan base. I still have no idea where my numbers are coming from. If it's from you guys, thank you. Or if it's just organic growth and it's bringing new people into the podcast overall. I have no idea what's going on there.
Mine are all over the place too, actually. I just went to look at my YouTube. So yeah, episode 0, 44 views. I think that those are from Reddit, because I posted those on Reddit getting help.
I haven't posted any of the podcast on Reddit at all.
Yeah, I posted several episodes on Reddit when we were first starting, like, hey, guys, in the podcasting subreddit, like, hey, please listen to this. I'm brand new to this. I would like some help, making sure I'm doing editing and et cetera, et cetera. So, but I've got an average for most of my episodes of around 10 views. So, at 21 total episodes, we've got 18 numbered episodes. The Franken episode episode 0, and then the bonus episode. So 21 items. I mean, that's 210 additional, I don't know, listens, views, whatever you want to call it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, our podcast total is, if all of those were unique, nobody's, viewing it in different places, or whatever. I mean, we're at like 1,250 listens on our podcast, which is awesome. I mean, we said when we started, if nobody listens to us, we just enjoy doing this.
Yeah, and this is basically us just chatting about video games in general.
Yeah. And we've got a contributor on Patreon, which I don't know, do you want to name who it was, or do you just want to say thank you?
Well, considering he also tweeted it out.
Okay, then you go ahead and name.
It was Be Cool, wasn't it?
Yes. So thank you, Be Cool, for being our first patron on Patreon. We love you a lot.
I will say that also the podcast has given me my one dislike on my YouTube channel.
Well, whoever disliked you, screw that guy. Or girl. It could be either one. I don't judge.
Out loud.
But yeah, our Patreon launched. We had a bit where we talked about it in the last episode, which obviously got ruined,
well, you fumbled around trying to find the launch button.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Maybe that's what, some sort of subconscious thing. It's like, oh, I made too much of a fool of myself. I have to get rid of this.
Oh no, I've definitely made worse fool of myself on this show before. I just was struggling. No, I couldn't remember the password, and that trend continued till today. And then I remembered the case sensitivity in our password, and then I was fine.
Yeah, I'm still looking at my analytics, and I've actually gotten 180 views in the last 48 hours overall. So
nice.
There's something going on my channel. I have no idea what, but something.
But so yeah, our Patreon is launched. Patreon.com/VGL podcast. We've got a couple of goals up, a couple of rewards.
Yeah, and they're kind of placeholders right now. We're still going to refine them a little bit.
Yeah, but we figured after we talked about it for like 5 episodes, we better just go ahead and launch it, and we can edit as we go and see what kind of response we get. So
yeah, I'm still not 100% sure on the banner myself. But the thing is
like
that changing the font on it sounds easy, but there's actually a lot going on there. And plus I would have to find a new font that I both liked and kind of fit our theme overall.
Right.
So, and that would work well with that banner.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. I like everything about it. It's wonderful.
Yeah, but it also fits your banner.
I want to have Twitter. Babies. It does. It does fit my banner.
Because you're using my prototype that I was testing the technique on.
I am, which I like it as well. But so please, even if you don't want to give us money for whatever reason, which is fine, it's your money, do what you want with it. Please go check it out and be like, hey, this looks great, or this sucks, you should change this or that. Because we want to have...
feedback is always appreciated.
Yeah, we want to have nice looking stuff.
Either through the comments below... Oh, wait.
If you're watching this on YouTube, please leave feedback in the comments below, which I will promptly ignore because it's a YouTube comment. Actually, that's not true. I read and respond to most YouTube comments that I get. Well,
and for those that don't get it, I was starting to enter my ending spiel for most of my YouTube videos as a joke.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me.
You're getting all choked up here.
This is going to be one of those episodes where I have to edit out a lot of coughs for some reason. I've got tea and water, and I'm not sick. I don't know, allergy season.
Oh, I got Kool-Aid, water, and I had a cup of coffee earlier.
Oh, I forgot to get my cider. Well, when we take a break, I'll get the cider for the last bit of the podcast. But yeah, so that's just what we wanted to mention in terms of growth and where we're doing and some decisions we're making. Just, I feel like we've come a long way from the beginning, and I just look forward.
Yeah, 21 episodes.
Yeah, I look forward to where we're going with this. I enjoy it, and I would love to get a decent following, I suppose is the best way to say it. People appreciate our opinions on things on the internet, and that makes me feel really good about myself.
It's kind of a little odd to me, but I think it's also because I did YouTube for 2 years without getting really any sub growth at all. So it's like, wait, people are watching now? This is weird. I'm used to talking to myself and nobody answering.
Oh my gosh, I could be like a complete asshole and just say, well, yeah, it's because I'm here now. But that's not true. Your channel's growing faster than mine is, so. But I mean,
Well,
that's
it's also I could be a complete asshole and say, well, it's because I actually put content on my channel at a regular schedule.
I deserve that though. That's not you being asshole. That's you just being honest. Oh, okay. We've stroked our egos enough, I think.
Oh
So,
my!
let me
We're
just
gonna have to change the rating on this podcast.
from what we're already at what X, triple X. Somebody get nude, and then we can be triple X.
What, you're not already?
Well, I mean, you can't see me.
As far as you know.
Kyle's episode was definitely triple X. All that stuff I was putting in the.
Yeah, why did you have to check me to that? Because remember, we record on Skype, so it pops up in the chat.
Well, it's good for you. I'm spreading your wings.
Oh my!
Yeah. I said it that way on purpose. So let's cap that off with, thanks everybody for being with us on this journey.
And a special
us,
thank you to Be Cool for kind of starting things off.
being our number one patron. I'll give you a big hug if I ever see you in real life.
With or without clothes?
Yes. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about games this week, Rage.
Oh, I have a long list, and then you're going to go on and on and on about my final one. But as per tradition, I actually have 2 Sunday samplers to talk about because we are doing 2 weeks, but I'll split them up a little bit. From 2 weeks ago, I played Windlands on my channel, which is a VR-based exploration game, first person, but it's kind of a platformer, but the thing is that the big hook on it, if you pardon the pun, is that you have 2 hooks, and you could basically navigate like Spider-Man. But the limitation on it is that you could only latch on to leaves on the trees, so it's not quite as free as you would think from a Spider-Man-like platformer. But it's not a bad title. It has some weird things if you're not playing in VR, like be able to basically look down and up forever instead of having a limit, the 90 degree limits, or I should say a 100 degree arc, essentially. To the point that you could actually keep going, looking down, 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 and then basically be looking through your legs at the world upside down, and then continue going and be right side up again.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's you could definitely tell it wasn't made for it, but it works functionally well. And there's not really a lot of UI to it, which is a bit of a... well, you could take it or leave it depending on just how the game functions. Or, how you deal with the game, I should say.
Right.
And that's really all there is to it, because it is an exploration game, so it's more of just, going around and looking at the sights. And it is a very pretty game. It's very stylish.
Yeah, I did like the art style. I remember it from...
Yeah,
I remember talking about this.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of World of Warcraft, especially the zone Nagrind. I should say the old Nagrind. I'm not sure what they did with the new expansion where they have basically the mirror world of Outlands, where they may have another version of Nagrind there with all the floating islands. I'm thinking the old Nagrind, the one I played in, with all the floating islands and the colorful landscape. It reminded me a lot of that style-wise. But it wasn't a bad time.
Oh, I like the way you said that. It wasn't a bad time.
Hey, usually on these exploration games, it's very tough to get into them just because you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. And a matter of fact, I figured out after I did my video on it, that you get to this hub world, and essentially you're supposed to turn around and go back through the portal that you just came through to get to the new area, which is weird.
Yeah, it does seem strange.
And I'm not sure if getting a certain number of the fragments unlocks the other worlds or what goes on there, but it's interesting. It's definitely not for everyone, and I would say that it's probably a lot better in VR just because you have that sense of movement. Because, well, it's designed for VR, but like I said, they made it so it's functional without it.
Right.
Not exactly great, but functional.
Yeah, I suspect a lot of VR games are going to be doing that for a while.
Yeah, especially since VR is a very niche thing right now. It's the enthusiast thing.
Right. So, next game on your list?
Next game, my next couple or actually my next three are going to be all mobile games because that's basically what I play whenever I'm rendering stuff, and I render a lot of stuff, especially with Last Remnant. It's eating up so much of my render time.
Oh man, I can't imagine how long it takes to render an episode of that.
Yeah, considering, well, I actually did the math on Last Remnant, and no, I'm not going to talk a lot about it just because it's an ongoing series, and I've just basically scratching the surface on it after 10 episodes recorded. My average per episode is 52 minutes, and that's pre-editing on one of the episodes. So, yeah, it eats up a lot of time, so I have plenty of time to play mobile games. And one of the pick-up-and-play games I've been playing for the last couple of weeks has been Giant Boulder of Death.
You talked about this one last week too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I played a little bit more on it, though, since then, and they've actually had an update since the last time I talked about it.
Okay.
Where Giant Boulder of Death is an Adult Swim game. If you don't know Adult Swim, it's the segment on Cartoon Network for more adult-oriented cartoons. No, not that type of adult-oriented.
Hey-o.
But they have a lot of oddball games that they produce for mobile, and for they also put a lot of them out on Steam. And Giant Boulder of Death, essentially, you are a boulder on this mountain peak, and you see that your girlfriend down the town below has just been carved into a statue, and you're pissed off, so you're going to roll down there and kill them. And it's essentially an endless runner type game. But the thing about, well, part of it is that, it's a score attack where as you progress through the game, and you have a daily goal that you're given, which is a new thing since last time I talked about it, of hitting certain targets a number of times throughout the day. But then you also have a set target for your next unlock. And it can be something simple like just roll 1,000 meters or just play 3 games. But then they could get really tough, like become Invincible, which is basically building up your combo meter a set number of times, which can be very difficult. And as you reach those targets, it unlocks more and more things in the world for you to run over, and also unlocks more enemies. So it's technically making the game harder, but it's also unlocking a lot of more high-value targets, which allows you to become Invincible a lot more often, or a lot easier.
Right.
So it's kind of a trade-off there. And it's an interesting trade-off as well. And of course it does have the microtransaction thing, where you could buy gems to basically do instant unlocks, but also once every 10 minutes, you could do when you start your game, I should say this, you're given a chance for a roulette, where you get 3 random power-ups. But you also get a free roll every 10 minutes, and your first play is also that free roll, assuming that it's been 10 minutes since the last time you played. So you can pick it up, do your free game in like 3 minutes, and then just put it away for a while and do a free one again. And these are extra bonuses, like extra gems will appear in the world. There'll be less spikes in the world. High point Yetis will show up, which will actually make it very easy to become Invincible. That sort of thing.
Right.
And it's been something that I've basically just been playing like maybe 5 or 10 minutes, long enough to get a couple rolls on. But also, they also have a way to kind of reset your progress, sorta, because you're able to buy a skin for your boulder to reset part of your progress as well. Like, I bought the girl skin, which turns your boulder pink, which is terribly, terribly sexist. And she has a bow, but she also has a Band-Aid on her side with this giant crack.
That's cute.
Because in the normal storyline, she gets, just destroyed to make the statue.
Right.
But it also turns all the trees pink, and there's unicorns and that sort of thing. But also resets your progress on the normal targets, and also resets your power-ups, which is pretty standard things, longer duration on the Invincible Boulder, higher jump speed, and trying to think of the third one, steering speed, of course. So you could kind of do that to do a reset, and there's, I think, 4 or 5 different skins that you can unlock. There's a pumpkin, there's a Santa Claus one, there's the girl boulder, the guy boulder. Those are the ones that you can unlock with gems, and then there's a 5th one that is a heavy metal boulder, and that's a paid one.
Heavy metal boulder.
And it replaces all the music, supposedly, but I'm not going to put down $5 for a skin.
Right. Don't blame me for that.
But it's not. I don't. It's not a bad time waster. It's not something that you could go in heavy on. That's actually something else in my list later on. It's good for probably about 5 or 10 minutes every so often, maybe a couple times a day. Just kind of a few minutes, fire that up and just kill some random things rolling down a mountain. And it is hilarious hearing, well, at least the bass music for the guy boulder is polka. So you hear this polka music and then just hear dogs barking and geese honking and all sort of things as you're rolling down the mountain. It really adds to it. My big complaint about it is that it's played in portrait mode and not landscape mode. So I have had a few times where I've had things hit me off screen and killed me just because it's coming in from a steep angle from the left or the right.
Right.
So I wish it was played on landscape where you could see a bit further to your sides, but that's really a minor complaint.
Right. Well, I mean, that is frustrating. I get that it's minor, but that is frustrating.
Yeah. Well, if you're paying attention down the mountain and seeing what is coming, it's not going to hurt you that badly. But it has got me a couple times, and there's been a couple times where, I should say the landscape is static, or at least it's mostly static. It seems like there are a few chunks that they exchange out every so often. But what's on the mountain is randomized. So I've had a few times where I would go through a area of trees just to try to build up some points, and right behind the trees is a spike wall waiting for me. Just hidden. But that's more the nature of just randomization. And I think that's about all for Giant Boulder of Death. And I've talked about that a lot longer than I thought I would.
Well, I mean, you like it, so.
Yeah.
All right, so what's next?
Okay, and this one I put a bit more time into. Granted, not nearly as much as you. Shop Heroes.
Yeah, Shop Heroes.
Yeah, this was before my mayor forsake me.
I'm playing Shop Heroes right now, actually.
Yeah, I'm boring you that much.
No, you've already talked about Boulder, whatever.
Yeah, Shop Heroes. Well, you've talked about this before, so there's not a lot I could add on to it, just because I'm still in the very early game, and I'm hitting the point where I'm having to donate a lot to the city in order to get my progression up, just because there's not a lot I could do otherwise.
Right.
So that's probably my big criticism of the game, is that if you're not in an active city, which Shop Heroes is essentially Raceteer mixed with a bit of a clicker. Do you think that's a fair way to put it?
Yeah, that's definitely a fair way to put it, because I said Raceteer when I described it a couple of weeks ago. I said Raceteer minus some of the things that make Raceteer so good, which I was like, that's not exactly a glowing recommendation, but it's actually really, really good. It's just hard to explain. But I think that's a pretty good way to explain it.
Yeah, where there's a lot of downtime just waiting on timers, which you can skip if you're willing to put a lot of money into the game, but I'm a cheapskate. What can I say?
Yeah, I don't blame you.
And plus, these clicker games, if you're not careful, they will suck a lot of money out of your wallet. But pretty much, Shop Heroes, I'm still in the very early stages of it. It's Raceteer plus clicker. There's some management of your heroes, which I found a little frustrating just because it seems like I have the worst luck with the random number generator there. I had one hero break his helmet twice, and it was a 1% chance to break it each time.
Oh, that's rough. And stupid. That system doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, well, thankfully it was a helmet I was able to make again, so it was more just a time sink than anything else because I wasn't going to spend gems on it. And thankfully there are ways to make gems without... the gems is the premium currency, by the way, without sinking money into it. You can do some horse trading on the trading post, which unfortunately is still kind of locked to me, or at least partly locked because I'm not high enough level for it. Or you could just watch commercials, which is also an option in Giant Boulder of Death to get a few gems. But I usually do that if there's like 30 seconds left on a hero to show up. And there's really not a lot you could do in the shop in 30 seconds. A matter of fact, going back and forth to the shop and to the inn is close to that time, just because of loading screens.
Right.
So I'll just hit the commercial and it's like, all right, fine, give me a couple gems instead.
Yeah, I haven't watched a single video. I sell a few things on the auction house because I've got some items that are decently leveled.
I don't have... I've hit the point where I'm being held back by progression on some of the city.
What do you need upgraded in the city?
I need new quest, basically. Because
so you need the inn upgraded?
Well, it's not just that. It's also my level in general, because I need to upgrade my shop in order to unlock a new slot for my employees.
Right.
To be able to make new items. But unfortunately, I'm still like 5 levels to go, so it's basically just grinding up that money.
Yeah, I've got 3 employees. I need the 4th employee, and I can't get him until level 15 or 16.
It's 16. Yeah, that's where I am. I have 3 employees.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm hitting the wall right there. Is I went, I think, armor smithing, and quickly hit at the point where I need a tailor.
I've got a tailor. I don't have an armor smith.
So we went different routes. Maybe I hit a short route with the armor smith. But there's also still, paths for me to go down with different items, because the way you unlock them is you make them so many times, and it unlocks a new blueprint, and you could also get blueprints from your login rewards and doing a certain thing. Like today's for me was sending out 3 hero parties.
Yeah.
Which, is like 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's really easy to do.
Or, fulfill requests from the auction house, which is literally just I'm selling my spare chest, because I'm not going to be paying, I think it's like 20 gems a pop to open the chest.
Yeah, I sell all of my spare chests. Every once in a while, I'll win some keys, like from the roulette table or whatever.
Yeah, which is the other login reward that you get every 8 hours.
It's 7 or 8 hours, something like that. But yeah, unless I get free keys from that, or I've like the daily quest guys that come, and you have to fulfill the order, and they give you rewards.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't have enough unlocked to be able to do those.
I've only been able to do 1 in all of my time. I've only gotten 1 so far.
Yeah, I have one that's showing up right now that I'm able to do 2 of 3 on, and I don't think it's really worth it unless I could do all 3.
Right.
Because I tried 1 and found that I wasn't able to I thought, I'll buy from the trade house. And he was wanting stuff that I couldn't make. And I tried to buy from the trade house. It's like, you have to be level 15 in order to buy this. Well, fuck. Wish you would have told me this before I tried to fulfill this quest. But no.
I'm sorry. That was just funny. Well, fuck. Oh, okay. I'm fine.
But outside of that, it's more just trying to grind up. And once again, it's another game that I play in spurts just because of the timers, especially on some of the other stuff. On some of the higher end stuff is like 5 or 6 minutes already.
Yeah. Oh, it gets worse. I've got an item that takes me 14 minutes to craft.
Wow. But I also have 4 crafting slots, so I usually have 1 just cranking away on the high-end stuff, and then it seems like everybody wants like short bows and stuff that takes like 10 seconds.
Yeah. I craft tons and tons of that stuff and then just like sell it on the auction house for like nothing, but it's like, well, I craft it, everybody gets experience, it's something that I can sit here and do, but I've got a whole bunch of low-level items that are maxed out.
Yeah, well, shall I move on to the next game, which is a more, I should say, interesting one?
Sure.
Monument Valley. This one I got not on the Google Play Store, but the Amazon Underground, which was actually free.
Yeah, Amazon Underground, real quick before you get into it, if you want to get into mobile gaming, play some decent games without having to spend money, Amazon Underground is great. They have rotating games that are free. I got Knights of the Old Republic for free from Amazon Underground.
Yeah, it's actually still on there.
Oh, it's still on there? And there's one other game I got. It was a pirate game. I can't think of the name of it, but Anyways, carry on. That's a great service to use if you have a mobile device and you want to try some games without having to spend any money.
Yeah, and I will say that it also ruins the progression on some games because I decided to try the Sonic Runner.
Yeah.
And the Amazon Underground, because you're getting it through the Underground and seeing like Amazon's ad and using their service, they unlock all the in-game purchases for you for free. That's their trade-off. Well, the thing is that a lot of these games require you, it forces the progression. Either you grind out or you just buy the in-game currency through their shop. And because like the Sonic thing, I had all the progression through the store. You know, it's like, oh, well, this is boring because I could just spend nothing and completely max out everything. So it does ruin the progression on some games if you don't have the will to, just to ignore the shop.
So one more thing real quick. So I open up Amazon Underground on my phone. For free right now, you can get Monument Valley, which Rage's about to talk about. Goat Simulator. I'm not sure how you feel about that.
There's actually like 1,500 just games on the Underground, not counting other things.
Yeah.
Their app is absolutely terrible about browsing, though.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor. Just go to Amazon through your normal web browser on your computer. Search there. Find the game you want, then search it through the Amazon Underground app. That's the best way to find them.
Right. But they had KOTOR and DuckTales Remastered and some other stuff on there for free.
Yeah, which a lot of people are down rating DuckTales Remastered because it looks like it's having some issues with certain phones. But that's, shall we finally get to Monument Valley?
Right, sorry, I just had to jump in there and be like, yeah, this is cool, you should go check this out.
Yeah, and I found this on my own. Okay, Monument Valley is essentially a puzzle game with some exploration stuff in it. This actually was up for Game of the Year for a lot of places for mobile games, and won a few on a few different sites. And I can definitely see why. Think of it basically as MC Escher, the video game. Where, I'm trying to think of a good way to explain it. Have you ever seen Fez?
Yeah.
Where you're able to rotate things around?
Yes, I'm familiar with this game, by the way.
Okay. You're I'm also trying to explain a very visual game in audio, which is tough to do. It plays a lot with perspective. So, if let's say there's two platforms that are uneven, but if there's a handle on the world, and it's basically like just little mini levels. It's a lot of them are broken up through just going through doors. If you're able to rotate the world to a certain degree where those platforms meet, it allows you to walk across those because of the perspective. That's why Fez is something that jumped to mind, because it does that sort of thing as well. And I don't want to go too much into the puzzle because I think a lot of it is just the exploration and discovery about it. But it reminded me, and hear me on this, a lot of Portal, where it's not the dark humor. Well, it does have a little bit of a dark tint to the story, but it has the very simple puzzles with a few moving parts, but it has that aha moment that a lot of puzzle games I found lack, where you figure out the answer to a puzzle, and it's more satisfying and like you feel accomplished than feeling just utterly brain dead stupid for not seeing that answer sooner, which I found a lot of puzzle games fall into that latter category. I'm not sure if it's the same for you.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. That makes perfect sense. And yeah, a lot of puzzle games are like that. There's very few puzzle games that's like, oh, I just figured that out. That's amazing. Most of them are just like, oh, I see.
Yeah, there's some of the later levels which do get fairly complex, actually. Especially, I played through the base game, and then I got the expansion through Amazon Underground as well. Once again, for free. And the expansion actually adds a lot of interesting twists to the game. The downside to this is that it's a very short game. And that's why I really suggest checking out through the Underground rather than buying it outright. Mostly because it has really no replay value. Once you've figured out the puzzles, there's not a lot there other than, just toying around with it. Because the puzzles aren't very neat, but there's only one solution, and the game is, I want to say like 5 hours, including the expansion, maybe 6, which is pretty long for a mobile game, but otherwise it's kind of short. Maybe I'm just where I'm coming from a PC game, it's more of an expectation for a longer game. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of indie games that are shorter. There's a lot of games in general here lately that I've been noticing are between 2 and 10 hour experiences, which could be different. I'm in a different stage of life, and these could have always existed. It could be a trend that's becoming more popular, but it's something that I'm seeing more and more. But you are right, for a mobile game that is 6 hours is very long.
Yeah, maybe it's just have a different standard.
Yeah, you do come from an almost not exclusive, but the last decade you've been pretty much PC exclusive.
Yeah.
So you've gotten very used to playing games on PC, the PC way, so to speak. So.
Yeah, but then again, Portal 2 was about the same length, but it also had the multiplayer component, which added more time onto it, and also it had its workshop, which also was pretty much limitless.
Right.
But a neat little puzzle game. Like I said, I would pick it up on the Amazon Underground, mostly because I'm a cheapskate, but it's still supporting the developer, at least somewhat.
Right.
I'm not sure if they get the same amount of money, because Amazon Underground is based on the amount of time you play it. But it's a good way to just check out these random games, especially on the paid variety. I would stay away from things like Endless Runners that just rely solely on the store to basically gate the progression if you're not willing to fork over $50 for coins. Okay, so shall we move on to, or do you have anything else to say about Monument Valley? You said that you played it.
I've played it a little bit. It's fun, but I've not played it to completion. I've only played a couple of levels.
Yeah, I played it to completion.
So, you have more experience with it
actually,
than I do.
Technically, I played it to completion twice because I also played the expansion.
Right.
And I will say that the early levels, while neat, don't really compare to the later levels because I'm not going to spoil it because I think like I said, part of the fun is the exploration and the discovery about that game. And I think that's why it won so many, or was nominated for so many Game of the Year awards. It's just the simple fact that it's simple, yet it requires you to think differently, just like Portal did.
Right. I'm downloading it.
And the later game is a lot more complex, and it requires you a lot more thought, especially one certain level towards the end of the base game. And you'll know exactly what I'm talking about once you get there. But it is a very, very cool experience.
Well, I just downloaded it to my phone, and I will check the whole thing out later. I played it. I don't remember how I played it. I only got to play a couple of levels. I was limited. But it's been, this game is a few years old at this point, I want to say. I think I got an early build back when I used to do reviews. I want to say that's how I played it and why I was limited to a couple of levels, because I liked it, but I just didn't get to go any farther than the first 2 or 3 levels. So, but I will
say that it wasn't terribly hard. It's just what the big difficulty of it is just having to change your way of thinking for certain puzzles. So, moving on?
Yep, moving on.
Okay, to the other Sunday sampler on my list.
Okay.
This is last week's Rocket Fist. You may remember me talking about Stickball about 2 months ago, right? A dodgeball game.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Rocket Fist is another dodgeball game. But the main difference between the two is that Stickball is low poly 70s theme dodgeball with a lot of hazards in the level that will just completely screw with you. Rocket Fist is more sci-fi themed, and it's a bit more expensive, but it also has online multiplayer available for it. Granted, there's really nobody playing it because it is a little indie game, and these little indie games really, the multiplayer is there for groups of friends to play with, and not for playing with randoms. I'll be perfectly frank on that. For probably 9 times out of 10, that's what multiplayer is for an indie game like this. I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, I do.
And Rocket Fist also, on the store page, they say that it's a mixture of dodgeball and billiards, because what they change about it is that the levels, you're able to bounce the fists around. I mean, you're throwing basically rocket-powered fists, hence the name. And you're able to bounce it off a wall, like a 45-degree angle wall, bounce at 90 degrees. Just coming from the north, you'll start bouncing west or east, depending on the angle of the wall, of course. And you use that to your advantage to basically snipe people around corners. But, of course, the AI or your friends are able to do the same, so it adds to another layer to it. There are power-ups, and there are some hazards in the levels, but not nearly as much as Stickbolt. But it's an interesting game. I'm not sure if I would suggest it outright, just because probably my big draw to it over Stickbolt is the multiplayer aspect. But there's just no one playing, or at least there seems to be no one playing it. And it is more expensive because of it. I would say, comparing the two, which I did quite a bit, Stickbolt has it in the theme, but I think Rocket Fist is better gameplay-wise. The only thing that I really miss from Stickbolt is that it has this basically 2-hit system where you're stunned for a short time, and that's getting hit while you're stunned knocks you out. While Rocket Fist is your traditional dodgeball, 1-hit kill. And for Stickbolt, it allowed you to not be an instant out from most of the hazards. It was more forgiving on that. But Rocket Fist is more fast-paced because of it. So it really depends on what you want. And I'm kind of talking about 2 games in one on this one, aren't I?
That's all right. I do that
But
sometimes.
they are very similar. Because it is, once again, 2 indie dodgeball top-down-ish games. So, and that's really all there is to Rocket Fist. It's a very simple game overall. It does have Steam Workshop support, which I missed before. But there's nothing on the workshop right now because it's a very, very unknown title.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I'm just going to go back and double check Rocket Fist to make sure that there's nothing new in the workshop. I don't think that there is. Which is probably why I missed it before.
Rocket Fist.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing on the workshop at all.
Hopefully it gets that workshop support. I mean,
it has the workshop support. It just
sorry. I meant people doing stuff in terms of support. I guess workshop content would be the better way to say it.
If you're looking at it, you could see what I mean by it being, or what they mean by it being a billiards game almost.
Yeah, it looks neat. It doesn't look like my style of game. I mean, I would give it a shot, but
I do find the characters a lot cuter, just because I think it's because of the giant eyes on the characters.
Yeah, it's kind of the chibi style.
Yeah, and they also have costumes, of course. So you could have a little robot that has a top hat and a monocle.
Yes.
Or a ghost that looks very much like a Pac-Man ghost, especially from that angle.
I approve of top hats and monocles.
And you would love what they call it.
What do they call it?
Fancy.
Fancy. So are we ready to move on to your last game and my first?
Yeah, let's get into the segue game. Factorio.
Oh, yeah. My time to shine, baby. All right.
Yeah, I've only played 12 hours, but I've also played through 3 saves through this. And it's mostly just, fixing what I screwed up on the last one. The first one, I was basically just learning how things worked. Second one, I built a bit better, but I didn't have enough production on it, on my early stuff. So, down the chain, things weren't getting completed as they should. And then the third game, I got it to where I was producing enough, but my size estimates were all way off, and it caused my factory to just become a horrible, horrible mess of things. Spaghetti factory would be more the proper term of it.
Right. Yeah, I
And
know the feeling.
Factorio is technically a survival game, but it's a survival management game where you're building essentially a factory to mass produce stuff to essentially get off the planet eventually, but also to thrive. Build tanks and cars to just conquer the aliens, or I guess I should just say to kill the aliens and gather resources.
Yeah, Factorio is actually just crack. I have played Factorio for 54 hours in the last 10 days.
Yeah, Factorio has replaced Eve for you, hasn't it?
Pretty much. I haven't played Eve but maybe 2 hours in the last 2 weeks because of Factorio.
Kyle, what have you unleashed upon us?
So let's see. How many saves have I had? I had my first save game in Factorio, which I played peaceful, just learning how to play.
Yeah, see, I haven't played peaceful yet. That's probably part of my problem is that I was learning in normal mode, which you also have to deal with pollution, which pisses off the local wildlife. And that's what was really causing me trouble in the last game that I played, because I had a breach of my wall that I didn't see. So they were coming in and attacking my power facility and my early production, because I was doing like 7 or 8 stone furnaces that just pump out pollution like crazy.
Actually, the stone furnaces aren't that bad. The worst things for pollution, pump jacks.
Oh, see, I didn't get to oil yet. I was unlocking oil.
Pump jacks are the worst. They pump out so much pollution. There's some later game stuff that does as much or more, but in terms of like early to mid game, the worst polluting thing you can have is pump jacks.
Yeah, see, I had just unlocked pump jacks, or was in the process of unlocking them, when I realized that my world, I was basically going to have to redo everything.
Right.
And once you get to that point, without just expanding and bringing resources in off-site, which is probably the way you're supposed to do it, it's just I just couldn't kill all the enemies around me to secure another site.
Right.
Because I had 2 nests to the southwest, 1 to the southeast, 2 to the east, 1 to the northeast, and then 2 to the northwest.
That's a lot in your first 12 hours.
With water to the north and west.
That's a lot of nests in your first 12 hours.
Well, that's just my last game, which was like 4 hours.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot. You got a really crappy spawn, is what that is. And not knowing how to play, like, that's not impossible to deal with if you focus on building walls and turrets early on, but like learning how to play.
Yeah, basically I looked around and saw that many enemy nests, and I probably should have just restarted there, but I had a good set of resources. I had a lot of iron, just a massive field of coal that I could just exploit for my early production, and a good series of just like 2 or 3 good chunks of copper to mess with as well.
Right.
And just a huge oil field. So that's why I decided to stay. And I rushed turret production, and I pulled the Trump card. I built a wall.
Oh, you're going to like the wall I'm going to talk about for my last game. Okay, so...
Was it 10 feet taller?
It was massive. We'll get there. So yeah, I played my first game for 4 or 6 hours learning how to play. Then I played a quick multiplayer session with Kyle, and he taught me some things about starting.
See, I haven't had my session with Kyle yet.
He taught me some things about starting off more efficiently, and just like some quirks about the game I didn't know, and how certain
I think that might be my problem. Is I haven't had my session with Kyle, so I'm more just learning as I go and trying to figure out things.
Well, I think unless he's done some stuff, I've actually now passed Kyle in terms of what I've done versus what he's done in the game. So then I went back and I started a new game, and I played this game for like 30 hours. I had automated all the way up to blue science. I had automated like ammo production. I had built off-site facilities with trains. I was using logistics bots, which are a lifesaver, because I just didn't realize how much space I needed for automated production. And so where my research area was just became a sea of conveyor belts everywhere as far as the eye could see, and there was nowhere else to do it without ripping it all up. And I was like, well, I could rip it up, but then that would cost me a bunch of time. thankfully, I figured out the logistics system and how the different logistics chests work, and built hundreds, like 500 logistics bots. So there's just a sea of little robots flying around my base, delivering goods to where they need to go. And I got a good spawn in terms of aliens being far away from me. I got through most of it without needing defenses or walls or anything, because they just weren't close enough. Yeah, and by the time they got close enough, I had tanks and power armor, so it's just like, I'll just roll down there and blow your base up.
Yeah, all my spawns, I've had enemies literally on my doorstep.
Yeah.
So, and I'm using the default settings as well. The only time I've ever seen the enemies far away from me, or I shouldn't say, literally on the border of the starting block, was when I turned down the enemy spawns, but that felt a bit cheaty.
Right. So, I was doing all this stuff. I was doing good. I was real proud of myself. And then Steam Cloud had something go wrong with it, and I lost 8 hours of progression. So I was like, well, you know what? I was unhappy with that world anyways. I was just soldiering on with it because I had put so much time into it. So I started another new world that I've been playing for... Actually, I started 2 new worlds. I started one world on my laptop and one world on my desktop. Okay, so normally when I would play mobile games at the clinic or whatever, I'm now just whipping out my laptop and playing Factorio. And I think that I had so many cloud saves and the internet at the clinic is spotty sometimes. Mm-hmm. It didn't sync properly, and that's what cost me my save file. So now I've got one game dedicated to my laptop and one game dedicated to my desktop. So the game on my laptop I've played for about 6 hours. And I actually made it another peaceful world just so that I could play around with some concepts once I got to a higher level and not had to worry about it. Because I really want to optimize the train network and the logistics bots and stuff. And I figured a peaceful game would be where I could learn how to do that. So I'm just kind of spread out all over the place in there. It's not really efficient. I'm just building resources right now because I don't have to worry about the aliens coming to attack me. But my new kind of main game that I'm plowing through, I played it for 8 to 10 hours, and I'm recording the whole thing. I'm not doing any voiceover. I'm going to go back and do editing and do some voice over the top of it eventually to create a series out of it. But
you're actually going to put something on YouTube?
Oh, whatever. Shut up. But I've been recording the entire thing, so I've got 10 hours of video just sitting from Factorio as I've been playing it. But so I built my entire starting area. I mean, you know how big the starting areas are. Everything that is immediately revealed on the map whenever you spawn. I got an amazing start. I've got 2 giant coal fields, like at least 60,000 units worth of coal. I've got 2 giant iron fields, something in the neighborhood of 150,000 units of iron. I've got probably another 60,000 units of copper, 40 or 50,000 units of stone. And I'm using all default settings, so I must have just rolled the perfect seed. And then I've got a forest to one side, and then the rest of it is desert, mostly open. I've got a little patch of water in the middle. I was like, this is amazing. So I walled off the entire starting area, the whole thing. And I'm inside my little box. And
Trump would be proud.
I've got checkpoints and gun turrets. So basically, I just built a ton of turrets and had them sitting in my inventory. And whenever the aliens started attacking, I would go make that a checkpoint and put turrets there. And so I've got swaths of unmanned wall just waiting for enemies to show up. But I've got little checkpoints, and everywhere there's a checkpoint, I put a gate so that I can go out if I need to help defend the wall. And then 4 turrets with armor-piercing rounds. And I've got laser turrets researched, but I don't want to invest in the infrastructure right now that it will take to put electricity out around the walls to place laser turrets. So I'm still relying on every once in a while I hoof it out there with a backpack full of ammo and fill up the turrets. But the wall is massive. It took me 2 hours to build the wall. Once binding and creating the wall bits.
Did you make the aliens pay for it?
Oh, they paid. Oh yeah, they paid for it. They paid for it with their blood. I have went and actually killed a couple of nests that have gotten too close because the giant worms are a nightmare. Their range that they can, I don't know, spit acid or throw rocks or whatever is so huge.
Yeah, I should say that one of the, or actually the nest that had the two to the, I think it was the southeast. Maybe just messing up my locations. That one had 3 worms spawn on it immediately.
Yeah, I hate the worms. When they're little, it's not that big of a deal. But once you start getting in the medium and large worms, those guys are a nightmare. Medium worms you can kind of take out with careful planning if you don't have really high-level weapons and or armor. Because like 2 hits from them will kill you if you don't have at least heavy armor. But you can take them out with careful planning. When they get to be large worms, you basically have to use a tank or rockets and hope that they don't hit you. They're freaking it tough. So, I've been using the shotgun a lot this game. Normally I use the assault rifle, but for some reason I've been using the shotgun a lot this game. I think I like it better. Although my favorite weapon by far is the flamethrower. Or the tank, or a train. I like to just drive a train around and run over aliens that get on the tracks. That's fun. I mean, trains are invincible once they get moving. I read that on one of the forums because people were talking about, oh, do I need to defend my trains? And everyone's like, no, trains are invincible whenever they get moving. The only thing that stops a train is a behemoth. If a behemoth walks in front of your train will crash into it, and the train will stop, but it will pretty much kill the behemoth. So, yeah, I've put a lot of time into this game, and I've continued to put a lot of time into it. I still haven't gotten off the planet. Once I get off the planet, once I launch the rocket, because you don't actually leave the planet, you just launch a rocket. Once I actually launch the rocket, I probably will look into mods, because there's quite a few really intense, in-depth mods for the game that have a lot more resources. And
there's also just quality of life ones, which are very tempting to me.
Yeah, the railway system is useful. It's really handy, and it is the best way to bring in stuff from long distances. But it's stupid. It's very poorly optimized, especially if you want to move oil. Because the way the oil works is that you...
Well, one of the mods adds an oil tanker.
Right, yeah, I know that. But the way that to move oil now... Well, the way that oil works is that it's infinite, but the longer you pump oil from the ground, the less amount of oil you can pump from it. And there is a lower limit, but once you hit that lower limit, even if you've got a whole field of pump jacks, they're practically useless. So you still have to bring in oil from off-site. And you have to build an entire facility to fill up oil barrels, put them in your train, haul them somewhere else, then unload and then unfill the oil barrels at their destination.
And then send the oil barrels back empty.
Right. And it's just stupid at how fiddly it is and how wasteful. And it makes no sense because in the real world, tanker cars exist to move oil and other liquids around.
Oh, they've interrupted our recordings more than a few times.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. So that would be a good mod. And I can think of some other quality of life mods. Like inserters, they can pick up things... at
90-degree angles?
Yeah, at 90-degree angles. That would be amazing. But so once I actually launch the rocket, I will get into some stuff like that. But yeah, it's
also
fun.
There's going to be a patch in early June, so who knows what they're going to add to that.
Yeah, so far they've announced a lot of bug fixes for the patch. They're changing up the way that... Shoot, we talked about this earlier. What did I say that they were changing? Pollution. They're making some changes to pollution because the pollution system right now is kind of silly.
Yeah, maybe that's why I was kind of... I shouldn't say I was disliking the game, but I found it annoying to have to deal with the pollution.
There's no way to scrub pollution. You can reduce your pollution output, and eventually there's kind of an equilibrium that your base will reach the maximum for how far your pollution can spread, but there's no way to reduce it except by destroying your buildings and waiting for the ground to absorb it.
Basically, here's what I was doing in my last game. I was still on steam power, so what I would do is basically go to my power plant remove one pipe of one water pipe, let everything shut down, which because the furnaces were being fed through the power grid as well, even though they were still cold fired. The inserters still had to feed them.
Right.
Everything would shut down, and then I'd wait probably about 10 minutes for the pollution to go away.
Yeah, because the ground absorbs pollution, trees absorb pollution.
Unfortunately, and also the other problem was that only trees I had in the area were dead trees, and dead trees don't seem to absorb pollution, obviously.
Yeah, they have the same pollution absorption as desert ground, which is really crappy. So they're talking about putting in ways to reduce pollution. There is one other way you can reduce pollution, but it's late game. When you buy an efficiency module, or not when you research the efficiency module and then you build them, they reduce energy consumption, which has a byproduct of reducing pollution because your power plants are producing less energy. So the power plants create less pollution. So that does help reduce pollution, but it's not a solution.
It's not a solution to your pollution.
Not a solution to the pollution. And I don't understand this either. Whenever you build stone or concrete walkways, the ground no longer removes pollution.
Ooh.
So the walkways.
Glad I wasn't building walkways yet. I was just building my wall.
The walkways are really useful because
they increase your walk speed. I know that.
Yeah, the stone walkway is 130% increase to walk speed, and the concrete walkways are 150% increase. So they.
Yeah, well, I was still building the wall because, like I said, I had a ton of enemies around me.
You were still channeling your inner Trump.
Yeah, which is better than the outer Trump, right?
Hi-oo.
Oh, we are getting so political.
But so walkways are really useful. They help you zip around your base, and you don't have to worry about crashing into stuff with your car, because if you're like me, you're a shitty driver and you crash into stuff. I mean, the repair bots...
that tree just jumped down in front of me.
The repair bots come and fix it as long as you're within their range, but, it's still hassle. It costs you resources. You might accidentally blow something up if you crash into it too hard. So walkways, let you move fast, but they don't remove pollution anymore.
You don't understand. That's a way to create a new entrance to your base. Just crash into the wall.
That is the best way to remove trees, is to just crash into them with a tank. I mean, you can use the flamethrower and burn the whole forest down, but that's... You need some of the wood. You also just need a path.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a way to build trees or a mod to, like an orchard or,
There are mods that allow you to do that. There's also mods that add in other pollution removal tools to the game.
Yeah, I don't want to go too crazy with mods yet, but the base game needs some things still. But granted, it is still an early access game.
Yeah. So
it's sort of like, bring it to something that we'll be talking about a little bit later. It's like Kerbal, where, the base game was all right, but mods really added to it. I think it's going to be the same for Factorio.
Yeah, I agree. And one other thing the new update is adding is a special, super fast inserter that is 4 times as fast as the fast inserter.
Oh, wow.
I don't really know.
So basically it's just a blur.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of where that would actually be useful is loading and unloading trains. But, I mean, who knows? There's people out there. So I went to the subreddit to look for some useful tips and get some things explained to me. And there are people
insane.
that are insane. These are people that I strive to be like, but I know I'll never be able to do that.
Have you ever went to the Terraria subreddit and look at some of the builds there?
No, I've never been to the Terraria subreddit.
Oh, you should go check that out sometime.
I will. But, yeah. I mean, people on Factorio subreddit are amazing. They're also an incredibly helpful community. It reminds me of the Kerbal subreddit. Everybody's really nice to each other, helpful. But, yeah, those people, they have either they're geniuses or they have way too much time on their hands. And I'm incredibly jealous of that because I want to be both of those things. But, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say on on Factorio. Except that I want to go play it right now. I'm staring at it in my Steam library. Like,
Quit staring at the conveyor belts.
I could just press play. I could press play right now.
You could, but you won't.
You're right, I won't. I would get way too distracted and I would be out for the rest of the podcast. I'd just be like,
plus,
huh?
we don't
What?
want to lose another episode.
Right. So, you mentioned Kerbal. That's a perfect segue into our first news topic, which is...
Yeah. Didn't you have another game?
Oh, you're right. I do have another game. I completely forgot. I like that Factorio. Actually, I have two games. Two other games. So Overwatch. I played Overwatch during the public beta a couple of weeks ago when they had that.
Yeah, I will admit that I haven't played Overwatch partly because, well, one, I have a little bit of a beef with Blizzard, which we'll likely get into when we talk about that subject in probably about 2 hours. Also, when they announced the pay model of it being, what was it, $40?
Yeah, it's $40 on PC,
Yeah.
$60 on Xbox and PS4.
Yeah, to me, for a multiplayer-only game, that's a bit expensive compared to a game that I have 1,600 hours in, Team Fortress 2 being free. And they are two very, very comparable games.
Right.
At least in my eyes.
Well, I heard an argument this past week that kind of changed the way I thought a little bit about that. But so I played it during the open beta, just before the release, and it is a good game. It's very well balanced. It's a great handling, fast-paced multiplayer game. It looks beautiful. It runs well. I mean, I don't really have any complaints about it. I like the fact that it encourages you to change characters mid-game to try and create a better team composition. I like the fact that it feels, what's the right way to say it, cooperative? There's a lot of multiplayer games that do a really bad job fostering teamwork among their players on a team, but Blizzard has done a good job fostering teamwork on the people that you play with, even if you don't play with a mic. Just in the way that the objectives are created, and just in the way that the objectives are created, and you're kind of drug around the map, and the team compositions, how they change on the fly, and it tells you, it's like, oh, you have 5 Hanzos, you might want to get someone else different on your team whenever you start, and you guys can like work out who should.
Oh, you don't have enough snipers.
But so it's a really good game, and what I said last week when I talked about this was, I don't see though why you would pay for it unless you're just a hardcore Blizzard fan, or you're just looking for something new. You need something new, and all of the other shooter games on PC, all the other PC shooters don't satisfy you. And I compared it to Team Fortress. It's very comparable to Team Fortress in style of gameplay, even in like art style and mechanics. I mean, sure, there's some differences. Team Fortress is older.
Yeah,
not as graphically
the big difference
intense,
between Overwatch and TF2 is the addition of abilities, and Overwatch is more movement based.
Right, but they're still very similar, comparable games with similar, comparable balances.
I was just covering the basics,
Right.
The major difference between the two.
Right, and my point of view is the same as yours. I for a multiplayer only shooter, $40 is too much for me. Like $20 is more on the level of that. I would happily pay $20 for Overwatch and be content with that. But I'm much more of a single player focused guy. So for me, if I'm going to go play a multiplayer FPS, I'm going to play something like Team Fortress or
Dirty Bomb or something like that.
Or Dirty Bomb or something like that. A free to play game that is already fairly well balanced, is proven itself, etc.
Yeah, and I think I think my big hang up on it is that Overwatch already has its method of monetization in it with the crates. So it feels like they're just setting up to go free to play at some point.
Right.
At least in my eyes.
Well, and then someone made the argument this last week. It was another podcast I was listening to. I think it was the Co-Optional podcast. It might have been Podquisition. I don't remember, oddly enough, because those are two very different style of podcasts. But someone was saying that, a lot of people are making the argument that I just made about the game. But the thing that a lot of people seem to ignore, and honestly I ignored this, was Team Fortress 2 is 10 years old. And
True,
Team Fortress 2
but then you
used
have things
to-
like Dirty Bomb, which are is still in development.
That's true, and then they said, Team Fortress 2 is 10 years old, so it's people are looking for something new. They've spent years with that game. They're ready to move on to something else. And something that a lot of people don't mention is that Team Fortress 2 used to cost money.
Yeah, but it wasn't $40 or $60. Yeah, here's the thing: is that Team Fortress 2. Now I could be misremembering just how much it was, but I got it through the Orange Box, which was a compilation pack of Half-Life 2 and its episodes. Where the hell is Episode 3, by the way? The first Portal game and Team Fortress 2. So even arguing that it was a paid title, and I do believe that the Orange Box was $40 or $60.
It was $60. I had it for Xbox 360.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got it on sale as well, which doesn't really matter that much. But the thing is that it was a part of a bigger deal. And also, Steam tends... now, here's where the argument also breaks down, is that Valve and Steam usually have massive, massive discounts on their items. Blizzard? Sale? What the fuck is a sale?
Actually, Blizzard the last few years has had some good sales.
Not as good as Valve stuff.
You could buy, at Christmas this past year, you could buy World of Warcraft for $5. It was up to the latest expansion, which is Warlords.
Yeah, but they also...
you got a month
well,
of
here's the
game
thing,
time.
is that that they're giving away that anyway now to everyone. WoW has gone to the point where if you buy the base game, you do not have to buy the expansions up until the newest one. Literally just recently, they incorporated Warlords of Draenor into the base game and everything before it in preparation for the next expansion. So that's not exactly a good argument, because WoW is, a 10-year-old game?
Yeah, but WoW's had several updates.
And it's also
revisions.
a subscription game.
Yeah, that's fair. You can play WoW for free now, though. It's got kind of a similar model to EVE does with Plex, except
Yeah, but they also nerfed the ever-living hell out of making money from everything I've heard.
Yeah, that's true. About the only way to make any money anymore is the auction house, which was the biggest way to make money before, but, farming is practically worthless now.
Which is, kind of a detriment.
That argument though made a lot more sense to me. Like, people who have been playing Team Fortress 2 for years and who are ready for something else, Overwatch is the closest thing to Team Fortress 2 that's come out in a long time. So, it's the next logical jumping off point for the player who likes that style of game. I still don't want to buy Overwatch. It's not worth $40 to me. It's worth like $20, like I said. But I get it a little bit better than I did when I talked about this to you last week, and obviously you guys missed hearing that. But
yeah,
so yeah,
I'm just I'm looking on the Steam store page and looking at the similar games to Team Fortress 2. And you are right that there isn't anything quite out there like it. There's Battleborn, which is also a $60 game, which good luck with that.
Battleborn is
it's more on the lines of Monday Night Combat than anything else.
Yeah, it is. I'm very sad that people compare Battleborn to Overwatch so much, because they're two very different games.
Yeah, Overwatch is very similar to Team Fortress 2. Battleborn is very similar to Monday Night Combat. Maybe Smite with some of the heroes.
Right.
From Smite. But outside of that, Battleborn is a lot harder of a MOBA than anything else.
Right. I'm actually very interested in Battleborn, but I don't have it in my budget right now to buy a full retail price game. So, and plus I wouldn't play it anyways. I'm playing Factorio.
Damn you, Kyle.
No, thank you, Kyle. You're my hero.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, hang on, let me see. Who's doing Battleborn? Battleborn was Gearbox, so that's basically the Gears of War, or not Gears of War, Borderlands. So yeah, I have. Well, maybe it's just got burned out on Borderlands. So yeah, seeing Battleborn by the same guys, associating the two.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe. Battleborn, I loved the 12-minute trailer for Battleborn that like explained the whole game. I thought that was pretty great.
Yeah, I was watching Boogie stream, Boogie2988 on Twitch, and he did the opening. And it's like a 5 or 6 minute music video, then with a cartoon. Then you have the opening intro to unlock the characters. Like, oh dear God, this is Borderlands. Oh, wow.
I like it.
I'm sorry, but the first time seeing that intro wasn't bad, but for Borderlands, every single fucking time you made a new character, you had to sit through that unskippable fucking cutscene over and over and over again, especially if you want to try out all the characters. And I think that's why I have a dislike for Battleborn, just because it's guilt by association. I know you don't have to sit through the cutscene every time, but I still don't want to sit through a 6 or 7 minute fucking cutscene music video for a song that I don't give a fuck about. Am I ranting?
Rage just put on his angry pants, everybody.
I was just saying they're watching it on Boogie stream. It's like, oh dear God, if I wanted to play this game, I would have to sit through this or go make a sandwich.
Yeah, just go make a sandwich. It's fine. I should go back and play Borderlands some more. I'd love to play it with you, but you were like, I will never play that game ever again. And I'm like, well, okay.
Maybe if Borderlands 3 changes up the mechanics enough.
I probably won't.
Yeah, I would... my vision for Borderlands 3, and we are digressing once again, big surprise, is that Borderlands 3 will eventually be an MMO, or the Borderlands series will become an MMO.
That's awesome. I'm thinking
Because,
like Destiny.
Spoilers for Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2, at the end of it, the giant map with all the vaults. To me, that is like the perfect intro to an MMO style game for Borderlands 3.
Oh, and the vaults could be dungeons or raids.
They could be dungeons or raids, or even the different worlds could be different levels.
I'm getting excited now for something that's probably never going to be.
Welcome to my world.
Okay, all right. Moving on. My final game, EVE Online. I played EVE for like 2 hours this week. Every time I logged on...
You shot some rocks and sold some things. Okay, moving on.
I mean, that's pretty much it. Every time I logged on, everyone from my corporation and my alliance was offline. Everyone. There's like 50 people.
They're all playing Factorio.
Like
they listen to the podcast.
Between the two of them. They've never been online. So I'm just like, screw it. I'll just go back and play more Factorio.
They listened to the podcast, heard about Factorio. It's like, ooh.
After we played Factorio that one time and Kyle talked about it, there were like, 5 or 6 of our friends that got Factorio.
Yeah, I mean, I got it. And it's very rare for me to buy a full price game.
Yeah. So.
Granted, I'm no good at it, but I think it's partly I'm getting bad rolls and partly, learning the game on non-peaceful mode.
Me and you will do a multiplayer game sometime. I suggested we do Factorio after we're done with Terraria, but I mean, we can...
you are aware when Terraria will end, right?
Whenever we decide we're ready to end it.
Yeah, because if we follow the progression, we're probably looking at a 200 episode series at least.
Well, we'll see. But so yeah, those are my games this week. The War and EVE Online.
I will say this about Terraria: there are points that you can end it without, basically like the end of one chain of progression and moving on to another. But the thing is that's such a teaser, because I think the real game is something that I haven't played, which is the hard mode, where essentially the progression resets and you're starting all over again with the world that you've already kind of explored, but you're re-exploring it. Oh, you're going to have so much fun editing this.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, so the War and EVE Online, it's done. I mean, technically their hostilities are still on, but it's done. Their Goons is done. Matani hasn't been heard from in like a week.
Hitler's in his bunker.
Yeah, he's in his bunker getting ready to kill himself. So The war's over. It's
He's in his bunker, burying Ava Braun and with his suicide pill.
Yep. His dog's there.
That's a hell of a honeymoon, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, yep, that's the games I played this week. Now, I tried to segue us to the news like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, but you were skipping 2 games.
Yep.
Which, at least one of them was good discussion.
Yeah. So let's move to the news. Let's talk about Squad and things that happened with them.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. We had such a good topic on this last week. We were going to tease just what we couldn't put out, aren't we?
Well, I mean, we're not doing a bunch of stuff we did last week, but you really wanted to have this discussion. So let's have it again.
And once again, for full disclosure, we did do this before, but we met through Kerbal's cast, which is a Kerbal Space Program podcast, and we both have played KSP heavily, and we both really love the game.
Yep.
And that said, I am disappointed in hearing about the allegations of Squad essentially mistreating their employees, supposedly. Now, this is all rumor. Squad has put out a statement saying that this, what was their exact wording? It isn't the reality of things. It does not reflect the reality of our company. But in Squad, we will keep moving along with our commitment to respecting and listening to those who will make constructive criticism in the company about the company or KSP. Which, to me, that is such a Weasley way of saying no comment.
Yeah, I mean that felt kind of scummy to me, just the way that
especially the ending line of this. Soon you will hear great news about KSP and will make the team. I'm completely butchering this. Soon you will hear great news about KSP that will make the team proud of their efforts. Stay tuned. So they're essentially saying, forget about what you just heard because we have this shiny thing we're going to tease you with.
Right.
So it feels more like a distraction tactic than anything else. But we should really go into what they're being accused of first.
Right.
Mostly just extremely poor pay for their developers, especially their overseas developers. That's the real damning part of this. And Kerbalcast did bring this up, 2 weeks ago, because they didn't do a episode the week we're recording this. And talking about how you shouldn't expect the Mexican company to pay a huge wage to overseas employees. And I'm going to respectfully disagree on that.
Yeah, I also disagree with that. If you're going to use overseas labor, you have to match their standards.
Yeah, and the annual pay, according to one developer, and a lot of these claims, other people have come out and substantiated these. According to this guy, is $2,400 annual salary, which is twice the Mexican minimum wage. Which, that is abysmal for any developer.
Yeah.
Some of the numbers that was being thrown around when this was originally a hot button topic was developers normally make $50,000 to $60,000 a year minimum, with high end ones being paid a lot more. And it is just, I think it hurts the reputation of KSP personally. You cannot separate a game from its developer, in my eyes. Or at least not completely. There's always that residue of the developer on a game.
Yeah, in an ideal world, I think
you would be able to do that
I think
separation.
You would be able to do that,
but then you would be overlooking scummy tactics like what EA pulls, what Ubisoft does, what Activision does. And don't get me wrong, they do make good games. Well, except Ubisoft, unless you really like climbing towers for some reason. What?
I like climbing towers.
Or at least inventing them so you can climb them in the latest Far Cry.
Yeah.
I know you don't, but still. You have to look, or at least I should say, an enthusiast of gaming has to look beyond just the game itself to what the developer does themselves in the promotion of the game, in the creation of the game, and in the creation of other games. Because do you really want to support EA's bullying tactics or buying smaller companies to essentially kill them? I mean, let's put it frankly, that's what they do to a lot of companies. And I know I'm being a bit unfair on Squad to compare them to some of the scumbag tactics from other developers. But it's more of not being hypocritical. I cannot say... it doesn't matter what Squad does, because I absolutely love Kerbal Space Program, and then completely turn face and condemn EA for their tactics and overlook their games.
Right.
You can't have it both ways.
Yep, I agree with you. You can't ignore... I mean, the creation could be amazing, but you can't ignore the creator who's creating it.
The ends don't justify the means.
Right. And crunch time, they were...
Yeah, this is something else we were going to get to. This is another allegation that they do huge amounts of crunch time. And as far as I'm concerned, from what they've said on the dev notes and what they've said on Squadcast, when they were still doing Squadcast, I don't know what the fuck they did there. Because they haven't done Squadcast in like 2 months now. They do absolutely insane hours, and it just is brutal, especially once again to their overseas employees.
Yeah.
And, this is something that Kerbalcast brought up, is that they were talking about how they couldn't see how the allegations could be true against Squad, or was having trouble against it, with how on the public face of things, especially to their local employees, how they treat them. You know, they take them skydiving when 1.1 or 1.0 launched, I should say, and that sort of thing. But the allegations here are not to the Mexican employees; it's mostly by their overseas employees.
Well,
so it could be a two-tiered system here, where you have the inner bunch that are the Mexican-based ones, with the overseas or the international team being kind of screwed over.
Well, even if the Mexican team, I'm working off the assumption that they're still doing crunch time. Going skydiving, taking trips or whatever, does not make up for that. Crunch time is unacceptable. It just is.
Yeah.
There has been hundreds of research studies done on stress and what it does to you. And crunch time is, perpetual stress for however long it lasts. Weeks, months. I mean, in the case if all the allegations are true, nearly perpetual.
Yeah. And here's the thing, is that for Squad, crunch time makes absolutely no sense. I understand why crunch time exists in the gaming industry. It is to make the dates set by marketing. And marketing in video games is an absolutely huge multi-million-dollar endeavor on top of the development costs. And if the marketing has set a certain date, you better fucking hit that date.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just wasted a ton of money. And the marketing for some games like Destiny, some people are estimating in the hundreds of millions.
Yeah. Some people estimate that half of Destiny's $500 million budget was marketing. So.
And it's just absolutely absurd. So that I understand why crunch time is there. I don't support it.
Yeah, it's not an excuse. I see why they would use it, but I don't support it. It's not a valid reason. It's awful. But yeah, crunch time is not good. It's not good for the health of the person who's doing crunch time, and it's not good for the health of the game, because people who work that long make mistakes because they get tired and they miss things, and then you have to go back and spend even more time fixing the problems that they cause. It's incredibly counterproductive. Occasional overtime on something is not that big of a deal.
If your employees are risking kiroshi, which is the Japanese term for death from overwork, which you mentioned last time, and I had to look up.
Yeah.
And I'm probably horribly mispronouncing that, so I apologize. But it's my thing that I mispronounce.
In case you don't know the cultural background behind that, you or the people listening. In Japan, because the way that work
The
is
huge
viewed,
work ethic.
Yeah, the huge work ethic, because the way that work is viewed, people will literally work themselves to death. Like,
Yeah, office workers will sleep under their desk regularly to make deadlines.
yep.
And honestly, I don't think game developers should be taking notes from Japanese businessmen.
No. No, they should not. That's awful. That's so bad for you. I mean, obviously, people in Japan.
just
who do
imagine
it
the
die.
crick in the neck. Yeah, just imagine the crick in the neck from sleeping in your desk. Ew.
Yeah, sometimes I fall asleep in my desk chair, or maybe regularly I fall asleep in my
Yeah.
desk chair.
Yeah, I wake up with a waffle face.
I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, my back. And that's only like from falling asleep for like an hour. I can imagine sleeping under my desk every night.
Yeah, and this partly, the Japanese version of it arose from the devastation from World War II and the economic pressure of trying to rebuild.
Right?
But bringing this all the way back around to Squad, there is really no reason for them to do crunch time outside of a money-saving technique. Because they don't have marketing. They're not releasing their release dates. Matter of fact, 1.1 was completely out of left field. Its release, I should say.
Yeah.
I remember logging on, checking Twitter, and seeing maybe Scott Manley or maybe someone else talking about 1.1 releasing. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah. And they have a community of people who, by and large, were incredibly patient. I mean, some of us, me and you, were pretty impatient about it. We had some problems.
Yeah,
but...
it was more just, a little bit of annoyance about the delays. It seemed like more Squad bit off more than that they could chew for it. They thought it was going to be, what was it? They were expecting a 6-month thing, and it turned out to be a year.
Yeah. But I mean, by and large, the community was very like, yeah, take all the time you need. It's fine. We've got our game. We've got our mods. It's cool. So they have no reason, literally no reason, no marketing, no pressure from the majority of their consumer base to do this. And yet they're doing it anyways.
Yeah, which leads into some of the, not even allegations, because there was a Polygon article, and once again, I should have dug this up, but I didn't. It may be in the news article that we're going to link to, that the owners of Squad are funneling off some or a good chunk of the revenue to fund pet projects. So that explains why they're doing crunch time, or at least if the allegations once again are true. I'm still going to treat this as rumor, even though there are a lot of external things pointing to at least some truth to this.
Right.
One of the owners is talking about starting a record label, and the other one talking about doing a movie or a movie studio, which are both high dollar projects and require a lot of time and effort and money to go into.
Yeah. I just had a thought. Let's go back to the salary thing. I don't know why this just dawned on me, but it did. I feel like I should have had this realization sooner. They sell the game at US dollar price on Steam. So
Yes.
It's what, 40? Is it $40 right now if you buy it full price?
Yeah, I believe so.
Let's just go check. Right now, Kerbal Space Program, $39.99. All right, they're getting...
Yeah, and I don't think it's ever since it's 1.1 release, or 1. I keep saying 1.1 just because that's the latest patch. Since it's, I should say major patch. Since 1.0 released, I don't think it's dipped below 20.
Yeah, I don't think it has either. I think they had a 40% sale. That's the most it's been on sale since the 1.0
So
release.
somewhere in the low 20s. I'm not going to bother doing the math on that, but
yeah. So they're making, between $20 and $40. Let's say $30 per each copy sold. We're just going to average it.
yeah, and that's also accounting for the Steam cut as well.
Right.
And that's not even really cutting into just also their sales on the website themselves, because they sell it to their website as well.
Okay, so they're making U.S. money, or euros, whatever. It's all getting converted for them to pesos, which mean, but I mean, they're making a lot more money than they're paying out.
Yeah, let's see.
lot
$1
more money.
dollar to peso is right now $1 goes to $18 or 18 pesos and 33, whatever the denomination is. I know it's peso and probably something else, or is it just peso and then a decimal point?
I have
I
no
can't
idea.
remember what it is.
I have no idea.
It's 18.33 pesos.
Okay.
I know I'm terrible for that.
Okay. So let's say 1833 times $30. That's 549.9 pesos per copy sold.
Yeah, but also remember this. I believe this is also talking about their salary in U.S. dollars, so it's
Right.
going
Okay.
back
So
and forth.
let's say $30 is what they get to take home from each sale of the game, and they're paying people. What was it? $2,400.
Yeah,
So they have to sell 80 copies of the game, and they can pay one person's salary for the year. Now, that's they could pay more.
yeah.
They could pay more to
assuming
everybody.
these allegations are true.
Yeah, assuming the allegations are true, they could pay more to everybody. I see where they're coming from with, beating the Mexican minimum wage. That's fine. In your own country, whatever. But for their overseas developers or their international developers that work with them, no, you can't make the argument to me that, they have to keep it even or fair, or they shouldn't be required
Yeah, and this
to.
isn't even counting all the crunch time that they demand, allegedly.
Yeah, so
This is just they were talking in the article about Squad demanding over 40-hour work weeks from their overseas employees, or I should say they're international, because they're U.S. and EU-based workers who get paid far too low to keep themselves with just KSP, but they still have to put in that time. So it becomes more of a passion project, but I'll be honest, a passion project, while great, doesn't pay the bills.
yeah, it does not. I don't know. I really like KSP. I really like Squad, at least pre this knowledge. I want to know what the truth is. And if Squad...
but I don't think we're going to find out, because Squad pretty much immediately went on vacation as well.
Yeah. I mean,
And I don't think it was tied to this coming out. I'm pretty sure that was planned beforehand anyway, because they were talking about, around Christmas time, canceling their Christmas break, which leads more to the allegations that there's just insane crunch time.
Yeah.
And I remember back when they were still doing Squadcast, the executive producers, Max Maps and Dr. Turkey, just looked exhausted. That also leads to another allegation, is that they would routinely let people go when they figure out how to replace them. Which, that's kind of a weird thing as well. So, figuring out basically how their how something works that they're working on, and then letting that person go. I can understand that one, but at the same time, you're letting talent go.
Right.
It just comes across once again as a cost-cutting measure for a game that doesn't seem to need it. Because let's go on Steam right now and see if I can find KSP on the top sellers.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure it's up there somewhere.
And I hear a train coming, so we're going to have to put a cut in anyway while I look for this.
Choo-choo. Leaving it in. Totally leaving it in.
Put it in the Franken episode.
Hear that train. Oh, yeah. I love trains. I wish that there were more good train games. Like, not simulation games. Those are fun. There's some good
Okay, I
games,
found
but
KSP.
I was talking about trains. No, you're fine. You're fine.
I was more waiting for the train to pass, because it sounds like it's going pretty quickly. Okay, well, after a quick cut because of a train, Jared giving us some Franken Show material, I found KSP. It's still in the top 100.
Which is good. I mean, I'm doing good on Steam, where there's like 6,000 games.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I would say probably in the top 80. But then again, KSP also goes, when it goes on sale, it rockets, if you pardon the pun, right to the top of the top sellers pretty frequently.
Hey-o.
So it's not a matter of not enough units being sold, even now. And I also happen to look at on the Steam page. I have 33 of my friends have bought this game. I mean, granted, I've made a lot of friends through Kerbal Cast, so that's probably a good chunk of them. But still, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, I have 29 of my friends who play Kerbal Space Program. And, I mean, I have made some friends through KSP, but honestly, probably half of my friends who are not Kerbal Cast people also have this game. So.
And shall we get to the last allegation here? I'm pretty sure it's the last one, is that just letting people go. And once again, there's some outside things pointing to this. Just the fact that in the last 6 months, Squad has gone through 3 executive producers for KSP. They had Max Match for ages. Then they had Dr. Turkey, who lasted a couple months. And now they're having some guy called Nestor, which I have no idea about. And supposedly he is very big into VR, so maybe that's where they're going to be taking it. And the different executive producers are steer the game in different directions. Maybe that's how they handle things. But 3 executive producers in 6 months? That seems obsessive to me.
That is a very high turnover on a traditionally low turnover position.
I mean, maybe it's something to do with how Squad manages their internal structure. It could be that. But it's still, looking at that, weird.
Yeah. Don't know.
And it feels like we're being overly hard on Squad. And I'm not 100% sure if we are being unfair or not, just because we do have this expectation of how Squad handles, and especially after their very successful bid through early access. I mean, they were, and still are, I don't think it tarnishes that, one of the ways that, a success story of early access, I should say. They were very commutative, and they had a good product all the way through.
Right. It's tough. This is where not being able to separate the company from the product is, because it's like, yeah, they were successful, but if they actually managed to keep this a secret that whole time, and this is true, and they built the game on the backs of that.
Well, there's also other allegations that are a lot harder to point at with external sources, like them hiring through second companies and having just massive NDAs, which is why this has just come out now. Is that one guy's NDA ran out.
Right.
Which is very possible. Because NDAs could get absurd. With just the penalties and the fact that if the allegations are true and the NDA protects Squad through that, you know that they would just hammer somebody that breaks their NDA to complain about them. It is so tough to be subjective on this, just because of.
I mean, we're very close to it.
Yeah, we are, and it feels like we're taking the opposite stance from the Podfather, because he was kind of soft on him.
Well, I was trying to make a joke, but really, I don't have much of one. So, yep, I'm ready to move off of this topic and talk about something else. We've talked it to death.
We would love to hear some more opinions on this. I think this is going to be a big talking point.
Yeah,
because I know at least a good chunk of our listener base originally was from Kerbal Cast, and we are taking a lot more hard-nosed stance than Kerbal Cast did. And no, we're not. I'm not trying to compare and saying that we're right and Kerbal Cast is wrong, or vice versa. I think it's two different points of views, because we are more of a general gaming podcast, and we've seen more of how the industry works, I think.
Also, me and you are just a couple of curmudgeons.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're approaching it from that perspective.
Yeah, could be that.
But, yeah.
Well, we would love to hear about this, though.
Yeah, because I don't, at this point, without any further input from other people, we've talked this to death twice now. I don't have any further.
And there's been really no other news about this that I've been able to find.
Yeah, they're doing the business.
Squad has been on vacation for 2 weeks or thereabouts.
They're doing the business equivalent of having a pint and letting it all blow over.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not even that. It's they also put something shiny on the desk.
Right. Oh, look, a distraction.
Look, a three-headed monkey.
Woo! Spank that monkey. Can resist.
And there goes the child-friendly rating.
All right, so let's.
If me saying "fuck you" over and over again didn't trigger it already.
Yeah, I haven't checked iTunes in a while to see if we still have our child-friendly rating. But I like that joke.
I don't bother with iTunes.
Do what?
I don't bother with iTunes.
Well, I mean, we are on iTunes, so.
Yeah, and what's the status on Google Play?
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't deal with it this week. I had some other stuff going on. I'll get.
No, fine. You have to be busy and all.
I'll get to it. It'll
Sooner
happen
or later.
We're doing good. We talked earlier about how good our podcast is doing.
Yeah, but we could do so much better.
We'll do better. We're only going upwards. We're shooting for the stars.
Oh, that's a hell of a journey.
It's a hell of a send-off, too, after talking about Kerbal Space Program.
So, shall we go into the corner?
Let's go over to the corner.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah. All right. For our first letter this week, here's Kyle with his letter from last week, which got lost, but we're going to do it again. Wait, no. Shit.
No, we have an audio letter from not Chris first.
Yep.
It's not Kyle. It's not Chris.
It's not Kyle. It's not Chris. Dang it. Kyle has an audio letter from this week, but we'll do Camus's first. Here's not Chris.
Yeah, we typically go in order anyway.
Yep.
Usually.
Yep, I fucked up.
Greetings everybody, Kmis here again. It's been a while, hasn't it? I don't have any particular topic to talk about, I just wanted to ramble a bit to let you know that I am indeed still alive. The reason I was unable to send in anything is that university has been crazy recently. I'm nearing the end of my 4th semester of computer science studies and I have a shit ton of projects to complete, including an Arduino-based plant watering system which uploads sensor data to a monitoring website, a character recognition algorithm which not only has to be good, but my grade depends on how it compares to other solutions, and an actual XCOM-inspired online multiplayer turn-based strategy game I'm developing in Unity. Good news is that if I do well enough, I won't have to write any exams. Just spend half the summer doing internships. In my spare time, I have actually managed to DM my first D&D game, which was a lot of fun. I've invited third player to meet us on Tuesday the 10th in a break between lectures. I'd ask you to wish me luck, but it will be over before you record, so there's that. I've also learned how difficult it is to try and get 4 people to schedule something together, and that if you try too hard, you may end up with a "you're going to have fun whether you like it or not" situation. Don't do that. As far as the games I've been playing, let me start with Clash Royale. I've quit. Shortly after the last email I wrote, I hit another brick wall. Only this time I was met with truly toxic meta at 2500 trophies, where everyone was running siege decks and even setting up a deck to specifically counter it. I ended up with draws most of the time. After 2 weeks of playing more than 50 games per day just to get 10 crowns for crown chest, I realized I simply wasn't having fun anymore. It looks like the recent update may have fixed some of the issues, but I'm afraid it's only a matter of time before somebody discovers a new bullshit combo. I don't have time to wait and find out. Instead, I picked up Crypt of the Necrodancer and spent a lot of time on it already. I've got mixed feelings about the roguelite genre. I used to play a lot of Binding of Isaac, but really dislike the theme, as well as the amount of randomness. With Necrodancer, even if you have bad luck with the items you find, each enemy has a pattern allowing you to kill it without ever getting hit. Oh, it's also a rhythm game you can play with a dance pad. And the soundtrack was composed by Danny Baranowski, mostly known from Super Meat Boy. It's ridiculously good. So once again, apologies for being quiet recently, and apologies if this is the only letter you'll get from me this month. Even if I don't have time to contribute, this podcast is the highlight of my week. Keep up the great work. Kmis, signing off.
And that was not Kyle, not Chris, but Kimmis. Thanks for your letter, Kimmis. Yeah. Some of that silence will be cut out, but it's just weird, like, because we've already done this one time.
Yeah. He goes into Clash Royale and talks about why he quit. And I looked at Clash Royale, and even though they have changed it, I've heard not even horror stories, but, just people talking about hitting the wall. You have, Chemist has.
Yeah.
And it just kind of killed any enthusiasm I had for going into it.
Yeah, it's bad. The only really, aside from some balance changes from the recent update, you now can earn gold from playing battles after your 4 chests are full, which is useful to some extent, but I mean, it's just you hit the equivalent of Hearthstone net decks. And until you either...
Yeah, which just killed Hearthstone for me.
Yeah. And until you either just spend hours, days grinding until you get good enough to beat them, level up your cards enough to beat them, or find a deck that kills the current meta, which is very difficult, actually, because there's quite a few different decks that are very popular as net decks. It's not like there's only one combination that's, that thing, and you figure out how to beat it. There's several very viable strategies at different levels, and so it's tough. Either that, or you just spend tons of money to get much better cards and then move up to the next barrier. But it became more frustrating than fun to me. I haven't played in 2 weeks now. About 2 weeks. Part of that's Factorio, but honestly, other mobile games had pretty much killed Clash Royale before Factorio came into my life, so...
Yeah.
I'll go back and try it again at some point, I'm sure, but on the whole, I'm more done with it.
It just seems like they put up the time wall a little too hard.
Yeah.
They built a wall.
They built a wall. We all ran into it. You mentioned D&D too. I used to play D&D. Obviously, this will be long over by then, but I used to be a DM for D&D. So...
Yeah, I never had a group of nerdy friends to play D&D with, which I know D&D nowadays isn't as of a nerdy thing, but growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, it was very nerdy to play D&D at the time. That or just satanic, one of the two.
It was still very nerdy to play D&D when I played it in late 90s, early 2000s. Not much had changed. It was easier, I guess, to find a few people to play it with. There were 5 of us that played on a regular basis. But, everyone still made fun of us for doing it. We just didn't care.
And he also brings up Crypt of the Necrodancer in it being a roguelite. A rhythm roguelite. And I've seen it played, but I haven't played it. I just don't have the rhythm for it.
I've played Crypt of the Necrodancer with a controller, not with a dance pad. Yeah, he's played it with a dance pad. I probably would not be able to play it with a dance pad. I suck at DDR and other dance pad games, so I'm sure I would suck at this too. I can't dance. I have no musical talent. I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't play an instrument. And I have tried to learn how to do all 3 of those things. It does not go well for me.
I played a musical instrument in middle school, in band, of course, but I was decent with it. I just kind of fell off because, going from middle school to high school, just didn't want to do the band anymore. Mostly because the director was kind of a dick. And then he left, and a nice person was the director, but Yeah, by that point, I was already too out of practice and just really didn't care at that point.
Um,
I'm not even sure if I've said what I've played to you.
Said, I don't know what
Let's see if you could guess. This ought to be fun.
what musical instrument did you play?
Yeah.
Can I have a hint?
Woodwind.
Okay. Oboe.
A small school. Woodwind.
Flute.
No.
Clarinet.
No.
I'm almost out of woodwinds that I know. I might be out of woodwinds that I know.
Well, that's sad.
I tried to learn how to play guitar and piano.
Which are not woodwinds.
Those are not woodwinds, no. Things that keep coming to mind are brass, like brass instruments. Like, well, I mean, obviously they're not woodwinds, so I won't list them. I don't know. What did you play?
Saxophone.
What saxophone was a brass instrument?
It's a woodwind. It uses a reed.
That's bullshit. That's a trick question. I mean, good on...
No, it's not. Saxophone is classified as a woodwind because it uses a reed, not because it's made of brass.
Fine. You're probably right, and I'm just being pissy. Are you looking up something so you can, like, drop it in Skype
Yeah,
chat?
I'm double checking myself.
I mean, I have no idea if you're right or wrong. I'm going to assume that you're right, but I just feel like that's bullshit.
The term woodwind refers to wind instruments whose sound production is principled not on lip reed. Lip reed is the sound production system of brass instruments. So that's why flutes are considered woodwinds as well. Even though they don't use a reed, it's because you're not making the sound with your lips.
Right. Well, shit. All right, then.
And that's your lesson for the day, I guess.
The more you know, I guess. I always thought that a saxophone was a brass.
Nope.
Well, all right, then. Moving on from Kimmis's letter.
In my history.
Yep. Let's
That may or may not be cut out. Who knows?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how we're doing on time. Let's move on to an audio letter from Kyle. This is a long one, folks, so buckle
Yeah,
in.
we're going to cut Kyle's first letter that is kind of redundant at this point because he was just talking about Factorial and we've already gushed about it.
Yeah. So yeah, here's Kyle's audio.
Greetings, J. Arthur and Caffeine Rage. This is Kyle, and I'm just sending you an audio letter about changes and the one game series that makes me want to break the Thou Shalt Not Pre-Order rule of VGL. But first, a little history. I love the Civilization series. I have played every single one of them since I was old enough to understand them. That is to say, from Civilization 3 all the way up through Beyond Earth. Now, while Beyond Earth wasn't that spectacular, I don't think it was that bad of a game. Now, the pre-order for Civ 6 has just been announced. I know I'm going to buy this game, regardless of if I'm going to pre-order it or buy it day of. I'm not going to do anything right now because there's not enough out about what's different about it to make me want to open up my wallet. That having been said, there has been one very key change from Civ 5 to Civ 6. Civ 5 went for a very beautiful, almost watercolor-like depiction of the world. All of the units were rendered to a very high degree of fidelity, or as much as you can get in a 4X strategy game. Obviously, if you zoomed very closely in on the units themselves, they were a little bit messy, but they still looked amazing and stylized. The problem with Civ 6, the graphical technology hasn't exactly come a long way since Civ 5 came out. So what was Firaxis to do? They couldn't exactly push the edge on realism anymore, as Civ 5 is an incredible processor hog towards the later stages of the game where it's trying to render about 1.5 million things. Of course, I'm being colorful about that. It looks like Firaxis is going to go with a more cartoony and stylized version of all of the units, cities, wonders, and world, and this is quite reminiscent of Civ 4, which anything that it can do to remind me of Civ 4 is a good thing. Civ 4 was amazing, or at least it was once you got beyond the sword. The point is, it looks like they're going to go ahead and sacrifice realism for gameplay. They keep focusing on all of these gameplay features, and they haven't really touched on the graphical, I don't want to call it a downgrade, but change. And I think this is the right direction for Firaxis to move. They're focusing more on changing up the very linear gameplay that Civilization has come to embody. I mean, realistically, it doesn't matter what civilization I play in Civilization 5. I always have the same tech tree progression because I always want to win the same way. Now, obviously, I have contingency plans, and I'd be very bad at 4X strategy games if I didn't. But the point is, they're trying to diversify. They're trying to make it so that you can specialize cities. They're trying to make it so that if you build near something, like, say, horses or the coast, you will be able to research horseback riding or any sort of coastal tech faster. Now, that's all well and good, but it's really just stuff that's been put out in the press docket. And I'm not doubting that that stuff is going to be in the final game. I just am waiting to see how it's implemented. You see, the Civ 6 trailer did something that really turns me off for buying a game with trailers, pre-order or otherwise. They didn't show any gameplay in it. Now, I understand that at this point, Civ 6 is probably at best in a beta build, and any sort of footage that they would show from it wouldn't necessarily be representative of the final product. That having been said, this is the thing that is designed to pry open my wallet and get money from me in exchange for a future copy of Civ 5. And a trailer that's not ready to show me any gameplay makes me not really ready to fork over my money for a product. That having been said, the Civ 6 trailer is amazing, and I highly recommend you give it a watch, if for no other reason than to get excited that Civ 6 is coming out. You have no idea how pumped I am about this. I love Civilization. That having been said, something I love a lot less is what's called their Digital Deluxe pre-order that they're trying to sell, and it's about $20 more than the pre-order itself. So, for a full 80 bones, that is $20 more than a standard video game costs nowadays at launch, you get the first 4 packs of DLC that come with Civ 6. And I'm wary about this, not just because I hate spending more money than I have to, but because of the way that Civ 5 handled its DLC. You see, for a long time, the Civilization series has been a series that has always been augmented by add-on expansions. Then when Civ 5 rolled around, it looked like they were going to go in a different direction with that, and it was a direction that I didn't really like. The first pieces of content that came out for Civ 5 were these things called map packs and leaders, and it was the general idea that you could customize your game to basically have the leaders and custom scenarios that you wanted without necessarily having to buy an expansion pack. And while that's all well and good for selectiveness, just chopping up the game and selling it bit by bit seems very greedy, and we thought that that was going to be the modus operandi right up until the first actual expansion came around, and it was Gods and Kings. And Gods and Kings was awesome. Not nearly as awesome as the later one, Brave New World, but it was something. But to add insult to injury, some of the leaders that were included in some of these earlier leader packs got rolled into Gods and Kings because they fit the theme a little bit better. They were better about this with Brave New World, but basically they were carving up the game and they didn't have to. Now, if the pre-order digital deluxe edition said you get all future expansions to this game for free, I would be on that like flies on shit. You have no idea. I love Civ that much. But again, I don't know enough about it to pre-order or even be willing to fork over my money on release at this point. So a pithy summary to this, which I guess if you haven't been paying attention or if you fell asleep, in which case, oi, come on, wake up, is that a focus on gameplay over graphics is something that I can really dig. That having been said, any sort of trailer or other marketing material that's not showing me actual gameplay and interactivity is something that I can't get on board with either for pre-order or actually buying the game on release. So I'm really curious to hear what y'all have to say about this, and I look forward to listening.
And that was Kyle telling us all about Civilization.
Yeah, and that's the reason why we didn't talk about it in the news.
Yeah, Rage originally was going to put it in the topic list.
Yeah, which who knows if it would have made it or not, but and he also brought up game trailers, which we'll get to in a little bit, but Civilization 6, I'm not in a hurry to pick up, mostly because I still have a lot of gameplay left in Civ 5, because I'm not terribly good at it, but also I've seen how the games kind of need an expansion from for Axis.
Yep. So here's how I feel about it. Civ 6 trailer looks great. The few screenshots that they have of it look nice. But when Civ 6 comes out is probably when I'll get Civilization Beyond Earth. I always stay an iteration behind because, like you said, the Civ games are always better with additional content. Expansions,
even though they have said that
mods, workshops, whatever.
Even though they have said that at least the base level systems from the full game of Civ 5 will be in Civ 6, they didn't say that it was going to be the full systems. They are just saying that, there's going to be trading, there's going to be religion. And that's just kind of a red flag to me, saying that these systems are going to be there, but they're going to be fleshed out with DLC and expansions later down the line.
Right. Yeah.
Being brought up also, well, unless you have something else to really say about that.
No, I mean, I don't. I agree with you.
And going on to how the game looks, I've seen a lot of people ragging on it. I've seen a lot of people loving it. I'm kind of in the middle. I agree with you on this, that gameplay trumps graphics. I mean, one of my favorite games is a game that has practically no graphics, Dwarf Fortress.
Yeah. I mean, Factorio is my current favorite game, and it's not a good looker. It's not high def in any sense of the word at all. But, I mean, the gameplay is also amazing.
Yeah, but there's also the aesthetic point of view, how the game looks overall, not in realism. And I kind of see where you're coming from with this. I'm going to hold judgment for the graphics until I see the game in motion. Because honestly, only thing we've seen of the game so far are static screenshots, and we haven't even seen the UI for this game.
Yeah.
So I'm completely reserving judgment. And obviously, upholding the first commandment of VGL.
Thou shalt not pre-order.
Which, for a short time, it was either the top or the second selling game on Steam, and it's quickly fallen off after the initial wave. I guess it'll pop back up once more info comes out about it, because right now they're very piecemealing out the info on this. And I will also agree with you on how the DLC model for Civ 5 kind of holds me back and makes me want to wait for the Game of the Year edition or the Gold edition or whatever the hell they're going to call it. Just because there was so much to buy if you want the complete package, and I don't have the complete package. I'm missing a few of the map packs.
Yeah.
And it's if you want to have the whole thing where you hit random all of the leaders and you don't know who you're going to get, but it's going to be the entire pool, that is an expensive proposition.
Yeah, my 2 cents on the graphics, I don't really care. I've said that time and time again. I don't care what a game looks like as long as it plays well. So yes, gameplay over graphics, absolutely. I do think that I would prefer to see something more stylized as opposed to the more realistic feel. But that being said, Civ has always kind of felt cartoony to me anyways. Every iteration of Civ, because it's a more bright game than its contemporaries, other games that it comes out with, both in the same genre and other games around it. I mean, Civ 5 came out in 2010 when we were still in kind of the generation of brown, where everything was very, very muted colors. And Civ 5 is, I mean, it's not like a super bright confetti game, but there's a lot of color and vibrance in Civ 5. Even before that, Civilization Revolution, which came out on consoles and mobile. I don't know if it ever made its way to PC or not.
I'm pretty sure it didn't.
It was, I mean, very artsy, stylized, cartoony almost. And it came out during the age of brown as well. So, I mean, if they go more with that, I'm on board for more color. But, I still kind of go along with, I don't care how good it looks as long as it is fun to play. Civ 3 is still my favorite of all the Civs that I've ever played. And compared to the other Civ games, even compared to Civ 4, it looks like hot garbage. So, but I'd still take Civ 3 over Civ 5 any day. So, we can move on to the graphics.
Okay, so shall I break the agree-a-thon now?
Sure.
Okay, he got into the trailer for Civ 6, and I do agree that is a very good trailer, but he talked about...
Nah, it's a shitty trailer.
It's good to, get the blood pumping for Civ 6, I think.
Yeah. It's...
But it doesn't show, literally anything about the game. I mean, it doesn't even give you an idea of what to expect.
That's why it's bad. It's a very good emotional teaser in that sense, but as a trailer for the game, the first official trailer for the game that wasn't like a little leak or a little snippet or, this is our first trailer, not a teaser for more to come.
Yeah.
Garbage. I don't care about any of that stuff. I mean, it looks nice. The whoever did the voiceover kind of reminded me of Sean Bean, which I thought was cool, but
I thought it was Sean Bean.
was it? Is it really Sean Bean? I mean,
I'm not sure.
At times it sounded like Sean Bean, and at times it didn't. But that could have been, the background, the music, whatever, kind of mixing in with his voice. I hope it's Sean Bean.
I'm actually looking for it now.
It's very...
Actually it is.
Oh, cool. Maybe Sean Bean...
At least according to this article.
Maybe Sean Bean is going to be the next tech, the guy who reads the tech tree and stuff off. That would be exciting. Leonard Nimoy is still my favorite, but obviously he's no longer with us, so...
Well, that's no excuse.
Yeah, just edit together all of his old voice, everything from his past to create the right words. He's bound to have said them all. But yeah, I have this problem with stuff at E3 and at other shows. It's like they create a trailer that shows you nothing about the game, not a thing. And I mean, I've seen worse trailers for sure, but this was not a good trailer, in my opinion. A good trailer would have showed us, some of what they did, that's fine, but would have shown us some gameplay. And I get what you're saying, Kyle, about, the game at best is in, like, beta and early beta, but something, they could even dress it up a little bit, and that would have been better than what they did, which was show us nothing.
Well, mind you, I'm following the commandment of do not pre-order, so that's probably changing my opinion on this a bit. But the way I look at it is that we live in the era of YouTube now, of the Let's Play, of the quick look, of the first impression video. And trailers are more to draw attention to the game, but it doesn't require gameplay to see what the game is like anymore because of these extra ways to look at the gameplay. And plus, trailers have been bullshit for a long time, even with gameplay.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. E3 has taught us that over the last few years, especially.
Even with in-engine footage, which is, just industry speak for in-engine bullshit, just full, as pretty as they can make it on a supercomputer, rendering frame by frame that animation. Because that's what they think the game will look like or may look like.
That's the target they're shooting for.
Yes. That doesn't make it so that gameplay in a trailer is a requirement anymore just because of how much bullshit is in trailers now that are being purported as gameplay or in-engine footage. So I look at trailers more like going back to Overwatch, where it's talking about the lore or behind the characters, or TF2, the same thing. Or just getting the word out there like Civ 6's trailer. I mean, granted, there's going to be a lot more trailers for Civ 6. I'll be surprised if that's literally the only trailer up until October. These are more propaganda pieces and not for you to make your final judgment on. This is to draw your attention to the game. It shouldn't be the only information that you're using to buy the game or not, which makes me a little sad that the game jumped to the very top of the top sellers. With literally no info out at all.
Well, the thing is that those are all the people who were going to buy the game regardless. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can pre-order it.
True.
I might as well pre-order it. Like those are...
Yeah, true, which makes me a bit angry. Which I do understand, the whole buying early to try to save money, but at the same time, it's such a risk. Even, I shouldn't say even, especially with a Firaxis game. Just because of their history. What was the last Firaxis game without an expansion that was great on launch? That didn't feel like it was lacking something. Because I'm thinking, okay, Civ 5, it felt like it was lacked in the end game, and that was expanded upon in the expansions of Brave New World and Gods and Kings. Well, actually in the reverse order of that. XCOM kinda is there, but it was added to so much with Enemy Within.
Yeah. I mean, XCOM, when I played through the first... Because I played through XCOM twice. Once with and once without Enemy Within. It definitely is lacking. There's quite a bit missing from the game that Enemy Within added in. I can think of one, I think, but I'm not sure. I'm checking right now before I say this to make sure who actually, like...
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the Firaxis list on Steam right now. Yeah,
that's what I'm doing. That's what I just did, was pull it up. Okay, I have one.
Okay.
Sid Meier's Pirates.
Which is a remake or a high-def port of a how old game?
I'm not sure how old the original Sid Meier's Pirates is. The version that I'm talking about came out in 2006.
Yeah, which, that's still a hell of a lot of a one.
That's still what?
That's still a hell of a jump. The original Sid Meier's Pirates came out in 1987, by the way.
So a remake almost 20 years later.
Yep.
I mean, I love Sid Meier's Pirates. I've played it a ton. I've owned it like 3 or 4 different times. Or bought it, I should say. But now I've got it on Steam. I haven't touched it since I've had it on Steam, but I've got it.
It's in the backlog. But yeah, that's a hell of a wait. Even if you count Sid Meier's Pirates, with it being a remake or a sequel, I'm not sure what they really consider Sid Meier's Pirates, and I didn't look on the Steam page. I just looked at the date. So it's such a tough thing to really support pre-ordering on this to begin with.
Yeah.
And especially with the practices that they had with Civ 5 and how Beyond Earth was kind of lacking. And it doesn't look like they're going to do an expansion for it.
Didn't they add some content for Beyond Earth, but it wasn't full expansion, right? It was like small DLC packs.
I'm not sure, actually. I didn't hear anything about a major expansion.
Beyond Earth.
But then again, I didn't really pay attention to it. I know it's called Rising Tide. I'm not sure if they call it a full expansion or just a DLC pack, which is two very...
It's $30. It better be an expansion.
Yeah, okay. They are calling it an expansion pack. So they did one expansion and recent mixed results or mixed reviews on Steam.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying it's content that should have come free with an update. So, yeah. I think Civ 6 is going to be a wait for me. I will get it eventually, but I'll want to get the full package.
Yeah. Unless it comes out and receives like tons of glowing... Well, not tons, but glowing review and praise from people who I trust in the games industry. I'll wait until at least the first expansion.
Yeah, we are being such wet blankets today.
Was there more? Well, we've spent so long talking about this, I've kind of forgotten the rest of what he talked about.
While we were talking about the trailers, and it kind of got off track, saying that it's more production pieces just because trailers are bullshit, to be honest.
Right.
Just because the gameplay in trailers, they're bullshots where you'll see things that literally can't happen in the game or that's being trumped up in the game. Extra enemies added in that the normal game can't just support. You'll see vertical slices of games that let's pick one almost at random: Aliens, Colonial Marines.
How did I know that you were going to say that? We must be psychically linked.
Where they did a sequence that doesn't exist in the game at all.
They did the same thing for Halo 2 as well. The entire trailer demo that they had was not in the game at all. completely removed, with a lot of features that didn't come until later iterations of the game.
So, just having saying lack of gameplay in a trailer is a turnoff. I understand you, but yeah, there's just so many other factors there.
Yeah, it would be better if it had gameplay, but it still would not sway me one way or the other.
It shouldn't be your deciding factor,
Right.
especially in the age of YouTube.
It would be a nice first look, I guess.
It shouldn't even be like a first impression or a first look. It should be a taste to make you go look more into that game.
Well, I mean, I think that we're getting into semantics, because I could argue that
Yeah.
that would be a first impression, but
Well, to me, first impression is playing a game for at least a set amount of time.
right. I mean, that's personal preference, because I would
Yeah.
consider a trailer potentially being a first impression. I mean, honestly, my first impression of Civ 6 is that it's not ready yet.
Well, it also is how many months out now?
Yeah, that's true. It is several months out, but it's like, I mean, you're not showing us anything, When is its release date? I know it's
Supposed to be October, isn't it?
It's towards the end of this year. Let's see if it says on Steam. It probably does. October 21st, 2016. So yeah, we're in May. So May, June, July. It's 5 months, less than 6 months away. So, I mean, I expect gameplay at this stage. 6 months out,
Or at least in-engine footage.
yeah.
Ooh, I go to the... I'm not sure if I'm just having a bug here, but I went to Firaxis's page for it.
Yeah.
And went to Civilization News, their website.
Yeah.
And it is a mess right now.
What do you mean it's a mess?
I'm seeing coding all over the place instead of it rendering properly. Maybe Chrome just doesn't like their site.
I was there earlier and it was fine.
Yeah, I'm getting state $ locals last strings news trending post. Oh.
Yeah, I'm there now and it's working fine for me.
Yeah, maybe.
So.
Yeah. Okay, I refreshed a couple times and it fixed it. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Was there more in his? I seriously
that's
forgot.
pretty much it.
We got so sidetracked and deep in that discussion, I forgot the rest of what he said. I apologize,
Yeah, but
Kyle.
we broke the agreeathon.
Yeah, we finally.
Or at least
done it.
I did.
We broke it. I disagreed with him.
I wasn't sure how hard you were going on the disagreement.
I mean, yeah, I said that right off the bat. I was like, that trailer's bullshit. I don't know.
Yeah, I look at the trailer more as just getting the word out, which for that it's perfect. It's that bringing back all the memories of Civ and showing what Civ is to other people. And I mean, it shows that nuclear bastard Gandhi in it.
That's true.
You know what they should have done?
Blown him
and
up?
not explain. No. They should have had a mushroom cloud behind Gandhi without any explanation. And Civ people would have known exactly what they were doing. But people that didn't know Civ would be like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, why is Gandhi being nuked? We'd all be like, we know. That bastard.
I hope they make it where Gandhi does go, nuke happy if you piss him off. Because there is a saying in the Civ 5 subreddit, or the Civilization subreddit, I should say. It's not Civ 5. Gandhi doesn't start fights, he ends them.
Yeah. All right. So that was the end of the letters. Do we have tweets this week?
Oh, yeah, we have tweets. I still have the tweets from last week as well.
Okay.
So we'll go down the list as soon as I scroll up and find it. From Supe from 2 weeks ago.
Supe.
Yes, we finally got to you. Only 80 mods rage. Just getting started on 1.0.5 and had 150 working on a 9-year-old CPU and 4-year-old GPU. This was talking about me kind of crashing KSP with my initial load of mods. And I think I figured it out. It's just, two mods interacting oddly, and I still have to figure out which ones. It's more just I was throwing the mods on it that I was interested in. And trust me, once I get going on KSP, which have plans for KSP personally, but I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to do it. That's a bit of a teaser.
Right.
It's going to have a lot of mods and a lot of mods that make it pretty.
Yeah.
But it's, still ways down the road. But I'm expecting to run just a ton of mods because I have something like 9 gigs of RAM that I could use, and that's accounting for system resources and with a little bit of overhead as well to a little bit of padding. So I'm expecting to run a lot of mods. It's just getting them to play nice together. That's the tricky part.
There's too many mods for me. Like, among my friends that I know in person, like, they think that I'm crazy for using, like, 15 or 20 mods in a game.
Well, here's the thing is that I'm planning on doing a lot of beauty mods like you do. But then I have a lot of quality of life mods as well.
I don't do beauty mods.
Or sorry, like Free Toss. Yeah, I remember you calling him the pretty princess.
Yeah, he's the prettiest princess.
Sorry, I meant to say like you called Free Toss the prettiest princess. I plan to go down that route because before I was doing more practical and quality of life stuff because of the RAM limit.
Right. Well, I mean, I've always done practical and quality of life stuff and parts packs. Those are like the only things that I do.
Yeah, that's the big thing is parts pack will eat up RAM like crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty much it for that one. Andrew Mason from 2 weeks ago finished episode 16, started listening to the community section from episode 14, almost up to date. And he also mentioned that Robinson Crusoe, the board game, is brilliant. It's a brilliant board game, but it's like landing and taking off from Eve. That means Biff cannot get tired of it. Oh wait, I added that part. Never say stick your rocket in crazy.
Wink.
We haven't really looked at Robinson Crusoe or any other board games as of yet. We're trying to figure out what to do with the Wednesday night stuff because we have beaten Dead of Winter, but we won it once. And I think it's going to be a lot more interesting in the next few games, just where people know the rules and we don't bring in another new person to have to explain all the rules, so it goes faster.
And we start getting more betrayers. I mean,
Well, there's always the chance for just one.
Sorry, what I mean is like we get betrayers more frequently once we know how to play.
Yeah, we've had betrayers twice out of 3 games, but the thing is that the first betrayer couldn't do anything because we were killing ourselves with just risks. The second betrayer tried to kill 2 of my, 5 characters? But I figured something was up and retreated.
Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't have won at that point anyway, but he was trying it anyway. And our third game didn't have a betrayer in it.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's actually the second game didn't have the betrayer, but yeah.
One of our games didn't have the betrayer.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think Dead of Winter still has some life into it, if you pardon the pun there.
Ew.
And there's also so many board games to look at.
I think it does too.
And also, we do have Factorio, which I know Kyle wants to do at some point.
Well, I also want to play Factorio.
Well, here's the problem is that the third party programs to get that up and running.
Yeah, that's true.
Hopefully, they do add the Steam integration.
Yeah, because that'll make it so much better. Because the biggest problem with using Evolve, which is the third party service that we were using, is that there's just lag. It's noticeable. It's not too bad if you're just running around, but like if you try and drive or combat a little bit can be difficult. If you're with other people, it's not so bad. But if you wind up by yourself and you're not the host, it can be rough. So it's annoying.
Yeah, and hopefully that'll be fixed before too long. Okay, let's see. Not Chris. Oh, sorry, Chemist. He has several updates in this, by the way, to his letter.
Okay.
Rescheduled D&D to Thursday plus Monday. In the meantime, I finally beat Necrodancer. The boss, the actual game is not over yet, and that's the truth for many roguelites. The final boss is not the ending, it's only the beginning. Anything to add to that?
No.
Okay, now we're finally on to this week's tweets.
Okay.
Be cool. You now have one patron.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah, which you realize what this means, right? You do realize what this means.
Me or him?
You, Jared.
What does this mean?
We are now professional podcasters.
Damn straight
Because
we are.
we are
Because
getting
we're getting
paid.
paid. Man. Oh, I actually had not had that thought. We're professional podcasters. I'm gonna put that on my resume. Professional podcaster. I'll put that on my CV. I don't have a resume as a clinician. I have a curriculum vitae, which is basically a resume with a fancy name. But
It's one of them high dollar resumes.
it is. Professional podcaster.
It's a high dollar resume.
Damn, son.
A hot dang.
All right.
Okay, so we have a couple more, and then we'll be out of this craziness into more craziness.
Yep.
But this is actually a discussion topic, so we may be in this one for a while. M251 Speed, which I think you're a new guy, so welcome to the podcast if you are, because I don't recognize that name.
I don't recognize it either.
I've got a topic for y'all to discuss. Considering how Counter-Strike will be premiering on TBS and E-League starting next Tuesday, which I'm pretty sure that he means the day we're recording this. I'm actually not sure. I don't watch TBS. Where do you see esports? What do you think of public perception of it, or is or will be? Thanks. And esports is very, very big in the East right now, to the point that they actually have full networks devoted to esports, especially StarCraft. And I think esports will become a lot more popular in the West when gaming becomes, and I should say hardcore gaming, not, mobile stuff like, we talked about earlier, becomes a lot more palatable to the general public. Because right now, the older demographics are still looking at video games as kid stuff. I think we could agree on this, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Them Nintendos are just toys.
Didn't Aki write in at one point talking about his dad looking at his streaming setup and just shaking his head?
Yeah.
I was pretty sure it was Aki.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's the same idea. Yeah, being able to look at someone that streams as a living and look at that seriously. For a younger generation, that's perfectly no problem with that. But once you get outside of the gaming circle or the hardcore gaming circle, more people are thinking that you're joking or can't believe that that's a thing. So I think it's going to be more just as I hate using this term because a lot of people co-opted it, but it's as gamers grow up, as gamers grow older.
Yeah, what I was going to say was that we're probably 10, 15 years away from esports becoming wholeheartedly accepted. And that's simply because the gamers who are our age and who are also kids now will be old enough to be the majority of the demographic. And the older people who view games simply as toys for kids or whatever will have died off. And be...
Well, also, I think the barrier to entry for the older people or for people that aren't into gaming is still too great, even for more simple games like Counter-Strike. Because I think I've explained it on this podcast before, and I may be mistaken there, that for an esport to really take off with the general public and not be a niche thing, you have to be able to explain the basic rules in 5 minutes and have it be understood by the other person.
It also has to look presentable on screen.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that and be presentable because Counter-Strike is very tough to do as a presentable thing because a lot of it is first person in streaming, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, not streaming, but casting, I mean.
Yeah. Well, they've Counter-Strike has actually got some really neat tools that they've been using. I don't really follow Counter-Strike very closely as an esport.
Yeah, I don't either.
I do know that in recent recent months, they have added several kind of quality of life features to it. For example, so this is stuff that is only visible to people who are viewing it, whether they're watching a direct stream or they're watching a casting of it or whatever. But for example, the viewer can always see everything in the player's field of view. So for example, if there's like enemies hiding behind a wall that the player can't see, the viewer can see them because they have red silhouettes for their bodies. And the more damage that an enemy takes, the brighter red the silhouette glows until they die, at which point it disappears. They have grenade tracking, so if, for example, the player throws the grenade, a line literally like draws on the screen following the path of the grenade, and you can see like how it bounces around corners or stuff like that. And that happens for incoming grenades as well. They've got little kind of cones that show where bullets are being fired and hit detection and stuff like that. All of that can only be seen by the viewers.
Yeah, but that's also a lot of noise for someone that has no idea what the hell is going on.
That's very true. It is a lot of noise, but I think it's more helpful than not, because at least having the presentation on screen, with someone who's a good caster, they can explain that quickly to someone who's coming in new. And I think, like we both said, it's just going to take time for the general audience to be, or the general public to be familiar, just kind of culturally, with what stuff goes on in games, to be able to pick that up fairly quickly. Like sports, we're all fairly versed in sports, even if we don't realize
I'm
it.
not you could explain baseball, football, soccer / football pretty easily.
Yeah. I mean, like, the very complicated nuances of the sport, sure, that takes time to learn.
Yeah, once you get down to strategy.
But the gist of what's going on, you can explain any of those sports in 5 to 10 minutes, despite the fact that most of them are actually pretty complicated at their core. It's just we're so used to them being a part of culture, we're tertiarily familiar with all of them. So it's just going to take that happening to games, which is going to take another decade or two in Western culture. So,
but I do see that esports will take off eventually. It's just a matter of time, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to happen now. It's showing up on ESPN in the States, and it's becoming more and more popular.
Yeah,
on
do you think
streaming
they'll
services.
hit on ESPN in the single digits, or will it still be on like ESPN 37 or so?
Well, it's on ESPN 3.
Ooh, a prime number.
Yeah, and a lot of people. It's so interesting to watch, because you see people who are not necessarily always older, but generally older people who are into.
I do. Oh, I just remembered something. There was a clip on SportsCenter for Dota 2 and their top 10 plays of the day, and this ought to tell you just how far it needs to go. They had the commentator from the stream talking about, talking over the clip, and it went back to the sportscaster, the two casters on SportsCenter.
Yeah.
And they just had these blank expressions. They had no idea what the fuck they just looked at.
That's
I'm gonna have to go hunt that down, aren't I?
Yeah, you should put that in the show notes so people can go find it.
Assuming I can find it again, because it's always fun to try to find old YouTube videos that you've seen.
But so you see these older people who, want to watch their football, want to watch their basketball, whatever. They want to see those highlights, and that time is now being taken up by esports, and they complain, "Oh, this is garbage. Why do they put this on there?" Because it gets hundreds of thousands, millions of views. They don't understand. The networks like ESPN, they might not understand it. The old guard might not understand it, but they know that it's becoming popular with younger
If one
people.
thing that they could understand, though, is demographics.
Demographics and money. And esports is very quickly exploded in terms of the cash that gets thrown around and the viewership that it receives. I mean, there's esports events that have more viewership than like American football games. I don't.
Well, to be fair, with some of the teams, I could. That's not very hard.
Fair enough, but more than certain
Sorry.
American football games or certain soccer games, or to the rest of the world, football. So, I mean, they see that it's coming. We're just a decade or two in the West away from it being as big as traditional sports. I think that we fairly thoroughly and intelligently answered that question. We can do professional
that's a first.
Yeah, that's a first. We can do professional podcasting, though. We're professionals now. We have to be intelligent.
Okay, so shall we move on to Chemist's last updates?
Yes, sure.
Okay, another update. Found 2 extra people for D&D. Had a lot of fun Monday. I gotta say, the phrase, I am the logic. Which, is he ripping off us off now? Can we sue him? Can we get a copyright on the word logic?
We're professionals. We can sue him now. Let's not get a copyright. Let's get a trademark.
Okay.
We'll trademark that.
Then we could go after computer companies for using logic boards.
Oh, yeah, there we go. We're just aggressively defending our trademark, guys. It's okay.
Yeah, for a nominal licensing fee. You could use that term.
Yeah. I mean, we'll be generous to the first, 1,000 people who come for it. We'll only charge you.
Unless they're EA.
Yeah, if you're EA, fuck you. We're just going to take you to court, take everything from you. We're not going to license our stuff to you.
And Necrodancer beat all zones mode with Candace and Melody. Struggling with Alaria. One mistake and miss that beat and you're dead. I know some of these words.
Yeah, I'm very proud of you, Chemist.
I'm assuming those are characters.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really like Necrodancer. I didn't play it a lot, so I'm not very familiar with the characters. Because, 1, it was a roguelite, and 2, it was a rhythm game, and I don't really like either of those things very much most of the time.
Well, I like roguelites. It's just, don't have the rhythm.
I like some roguelites, but Factorio is more my speed.
Oh, depending on the conveyor belt.
Usually I just use the slow ones because they're cheap. I mean, once you get enough resources piled onto them, it doesn't matter how fast they go.
True. Okay, and that wraps up that. So shall we move on to our weekly picks?
Yep, as we're coming up on 2 in the AM. Which is fine.
Well, this is what happens when we have to cover 2 weeks of community stuff. I mean, we technically didn't have to, but I wanted to.
Well, I mean, I wanted to also. I mean, this is just going to give us a nice big boost into securing another Franken episode, because I can guarantee you that 30 or 40 minutes of this is probably going to get cut out and stuffed in. Well, maybe not that much, but...
Well, you needed stuff for the episode anyway soon, right?
Yeah. So...
and I have 2 picks.
Yep, and I also have 2 picks, so we'll alternate.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the place in the show notes to just drop these for you. But, well, the first one doesn't really matter because you don't have to really search this one. Euro Truck Simulator.
Oh, yep.
Well, 2. Not a lot to say about this just because it's kind of been out there for quite a while. Unfortunately, it's just the main game and not the DLC that's on sale. Which is, the DLC is what I'm really saving for, to be perfectly honest. Because I have the base game already, and the DLC is kind of expensive for my taste.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, it's, you're driving a truck, a big rig around Europe, making deliveries and building a business. It's technically a business management game, but it's not much of one, in my opinion. Because it's kind of hard to fail on the business management side of things. It's literally just something to do with your extra money.
Yeah. I do quite enjoy Euro Truck Simulator. It's very relaxing.
It's a nice relaxing game, and it has really good scenery. Even more so in the expansions, which there are 2 of right now, and they're working on the 3rd. If I recall correctly. And it has also a ton of just cosmetic DLC. It has $75 worth of DLC right now. But a lot of that is cosmetic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has 2 major DLCs I'm seeing. Scandinavia, which I don't have, and Going East, which... Going East is... takes you into... trying to remember what countries they included in Going East. Oh, I'm terrible with geography.
I've never played any of the DLC for Euro Truck 2, so I have no idea.
Warsaw. Well, they include 13 new cities: Budapest, Warsaw, that sort of thing. So it gives you an idea of the general geography of where they're going, and it's a lot prettier. And Scandinavia is, of course, the Scandinavian area. Which the mods for this game is also just amazing. Unfortunately, it requires both the DLCs now for the major one Pro mods, so that's a bit of a bummer for me because I need to get Scandinavia eventually if I want to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, Euro Truck is definitely a game that I think, well, I was going to say benefits from the DLC.
Here's the countries for going east. Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, that area. So, yeah, I was just blanking on country names because I was trying to chatter away at the same time. Oh, trying to talk and think. Something I'm not good at.
So it would seem. And how much does it cost on sale?
Well, it's normally $22.99, which is an oddball price. I'm assuming that's probably converted from euros. And it's 60% off, which brings it down to $9.19.
That is a pretty decent price.
Yeah, it's right in the impulse buy range.
I mean, if I didn't already own it, I would impulse buy it.
Yeah. Yeah, same here.
Okie dokie. My first game is a game by the name of Meridian New World. This is a real-time strategy game that is pretty solid. It came out around the time a couple of years ago when RTSs were starting to get a bit of a revival, and things like, what was it called? Grey Goo were in the works.
Grey Goo didn't really go anywhere, did it? It had an expansion, but it wasn't nearly as popular as they had hoped, I think.
But this is an indie-developed game, which it looks very, very good. It's got a good art style. It's got a good sci-fi art style. It's got fairly good graphics for a small team indie-developed game, particularly in the RTS genre. And it just is a solid RTS in terms of gameplay. The campaign is... what's the best way to describe it? It reminds me a bit in terms of its depth and complexity of something like StarCraft.
All right.
As opposed to something more like Command and Conquer-esque, because Command and Conquer is really silly. This is fairly serious. And it does combine multiple elements into some of its levels. For example, one of the levels turns into tower defense, which, I mean, you may love or hate that, but it's just really interesting to see a tower defense mechanic play out in an RTS where you can...
Without a mod, right?
Yeah, without a mod. It was really interesting to see how they did that, and that happens fairly early on. There's some other things that happen like that along the way. It's got a great challenge mode, but the thing that really, really sets this game apart for me is that you are on a ship. It's a colony ship, and so you're on the ship, and in between missions, you can run around on the ship. And there's a lot of side content, both in terms of story and things that you can do to help you out in the main game that you can do on this ship. You can go talk to different crew members. You're not the captain of the ship, so you can go talk to the captain. You can go talk to like the medical officer, the engineer, chief engineer, stuff like that. They have things that they want you to do. Some of them do kind of feel like really like crappy fetch quests or whatever. Some of them are actually very interesting. There's a little kind of... You can play detective on the ship for one thing that happens between the crew, and depending on what you find and decide, can give you a bonus, a certain type of bonus, or a certain type of bad thing, depending on who you pick and how you handle the situation. And all of this is completely optional. It presents it to you fairly early, like, hey, you can go around the ship and talk to people, and there is a little bit of it that's required to, like, for example, go talk to the captain to advance the main storyline. But all of the side stuff is optional. So it's neat. Like, if you want to take the time to invest a little bit more into the story, not only can you be rewarded with content about the world itself, lore building, but you also can get bonuses for the game. So it's neat. It's fun. It does have mixed reviews on Steam. It had some technical issues when it was released, and it still carries some of those technical issues. But in terms of story and things like that, if you can put up with the occasional crash or weird bugs in certain places, it's a great RTS story that I think took a few shots at doing things a little bit differently and did fairly well on them. And it's super cheap. It's normally $6.99. It's currently 80% off for $1.39. So,
that is damn cheap.
Good game. Really enjoyed it.
All right, I'll go on to another good game.
All right.
Frozen Synapse. This is an interesting mix of, I almost want to call it real-time strategy and turn-based, because it is turn-based, but the thing is that each turn plays out 5 seconds of gameplay for your units moving around. So it's technically a mixture of both. Frozen Synapse is if you ever played the old Rainbow Six games that had the tactical mode where you moved your units around and planned out your movements, it plays like the tactical mode of that, where you set your paths and you don't control your units directly. You control them through their movements. Well, I shouldn't say you don't control how they shoot, I should say. And also, and at the same time, you obviously have the enemy units to contend with. And the thing that makes Frozen Synapse really interesting is that you're able to also simulate enemy movement. So if you think the enemy is going to cross a doorway, you could simulate that to see if that enemy crosses it, would you get the kill if you're set up in this particular configuration? And it is very, very by the numbers on that. There's no randomness on it. It is, if the simulation is exactly how the game plays out or how that turn plays out, it will follow that simulation. Which could be good or bad depending on how you view that, but it allows you to do a lot more planning and try to work out more strategy.
That sounds interesting. Not having the randomness, because games that you think of like that are more along the lines of like XCOM or whatever. It does have a certain degree of randomness to it, so you can save scum to get out of a sticky situation.
I will say that the enemies do take time to kill. Depending on the gun, the further away, the more time it takes, but it's always the set number. But like I said, the simulation, it will follow. If that is, of course, assuming that that turn follows that simulation. You could be completely wrong. The enemy could not go there. It could be flanking you. Or it could follow a different path. That's the interesting part of it. It has an amazing soundtrack by, I believe it was Nervous Test Pilot who did the soundtrack on it. It's very subtle, good background music. I'm trying to find the artist for it, and I'm not seeing it. But here's the interesting thing, is that you get a 2-pack for this, for your purchase price. And the multiplayer for this is asymmetric, or not asymmetric, but it is essentially play by email, where you're able to send in your turn, your movements, and then the other person will be able to send in their movements, and it'll play out that turn, and you don't have to be online to do that. And it uses the Steam notification system to tell you if you have a turn waiting. So it's very a pick up and play game. And I believe it's also on mobile as well, if you want to check it out there.
Yeah, I think I've seen Frozen Synapse on mobile before.
Yeah, which it may fit better on the mobile games, but you're able to do several games at once just to, if someone's online at the same time, to, play back and forth, but have the other game going at the same time. Almost like play-by-mail chess.
Yeah. Or the old Civ play-by-mail email.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, I was using this chess just because the games don't last that long.
Right. Yeah, that's a fair point. Fair point.
Yeah, the games are typically under 10 turns. Unless you just have someone that's hiding a unit somewhere. And there's different game modes. There's modes where you have to capture a certain area. There's modes where it's just deathmatch, that sort of thing. So there's a lot to change things up. And it's an interesting time. And it also has an expansion. I'm going to give you two prices on this. There's an expansion as well. If you buy the complete pack, you get an extra copy, I think, of the base game to give to a friend. But the thing is that the expansion, they set it up where only one person needs the expansion if you're playing co-op, which the expansion adds. So that is a very kind way to do things. And that's, of course, assuming that they haven't changed that, and I'm remembering correctly. But I do remember that the expansion does have the co-op in it. And it adds a bunch of single-player campaign. This game actually has a full single-player as well, which is done really well and is very, very tough. But overall, it is more of a simple game than most strategy games. There's only 4 or 5 units, depending on if you're using the expansion's extra unit or not. And they're very rock, paper, scissors-esque, where a shotgunner will take down an assault guy at close range, but an assault person using an assault rifle will take down a shotgunner at long range. Grenadiers are very dangerous if you're able to predict the enemy's movements. Otherwise, if you're able to juke them, they're not that much of a problem. And then rocket users are very dangerous if you're in a closed space, but open spaces, they're pretty much a non-issue. And then the 5th unit that they add in the DLC is guys that use riot shields that you could use in interesting ways as cover, as mobile cover to basically flank an enemy, or go down a corridor towards an enemy, or actually bounce grenades off of them to go around corners. I've seen some interesting uses in the replays, and it has a full replay system. It has YouTube integration. It has a lot of stuff for a game at this price.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a very complex tactical, strategic.
It's a simple game to pick up, but tough to master, just because there's a lot to go on, and the levels are randomly generated on the multiplayer mode. One of my matches that I had against a friend that kind of pissed him off was that the random number generator, that's the only time that the randomness comes in, is the map itself. He got a bad spawn on one of his units, and I was able to get a rocket launcher guy to basically get almost a free kill. I think I did take some I did give away my position on him, but he spawned next to essentially what was a column, and I was able to shoot the column and predicted that he would be walking past it to the south because he saw my unit there and I saw his unit. But that was more just predictive as well, I expected him to be aggressive. He was aggressive, and I killed him for it.
Well done.
Kind of pissed him off as well.
All right, so
the complete pack is normally $34.99. It's 75% off right now, which brings it down to $8.74, which that includes 2 copies of Frozen Synapse, assuming that they do the normal thing where Frozen Synapse always has 2 copies. You only get one of the DLC, but like I said, the host only needs the DLC. So you should both still be able to play Frozen Synapse Shred. If you get the base game instead, it's normally $24.99, and it is also 75% off, which brings it down to $6.24. But that's still 2 copies of the game. And now I'm done with it.
All right.
I would still say go for the complete pack, just because it is $1.50 more.
Yeah, it's not a lot more.
You get the DLC, and you get a soundtrack, and it has some really just
It's kind of a weird. You see all this gunplay, and you have this really soothing music in the background.
Nah, that sounds wonderful. All right, so my second game is Spellforce 2: Demons of the Past. This is a mix of an RTS and an RPG.
We're going all strategy, aren't we?
Well, I mean,
Except for me with the Aerial Trick Simulator.
well, I mean, there's strategy in that. You got to plan your route. Got to figure out what podcast to listen to.
Other than ours?
Yeah.
I mean, with our podcast, you could get tired of the game before you get done with one.
Probably. If you manage to play Euro Truck Simulator for 21 episodes, an average of probably 2 hours a piece, that's 42 hours of audio content. If you play Euro Truck Simulator for 42 hours and only listen to us, I will be very happy with you. I was going to say, I'll give you something, but I'm not going to do that. We're professionals. We're not rich. Anyways, so yeah, Spellforce 2: Demons of the Past. This is a combination of an RTS RPG in a way that is kind of hard to explain. There are certain levels that you play more real-time strategy style. There are certain levels you play more third-person RPG style. Most of the levels can be played either way. So, you have a small group of people that you command. They're like your main heroes. And there's certain missions where you only use them. And it's third person. You kind of order your squad around and you fight. Almost kind of like an MMO. You basically attack. And then, you've got your hotbar for your abilities. And you can swap back and forth between characters to use, specific hotbar abilities when you need them. But otherwise, they just kind of follow rules you set up. And then for the real-time strategy, they control, just you tell them to attack and they do everything on their own. It's got a pseudo-open world. There are zones you unlock, and once you complete the missions in the zones, you can go visit it to collect resources, fight enemies to gain experience, that sort of thing. And it's got a persistent world, so if you play a mission, and for example, a bonus objective is to save a village, and you manage to save the village, then it's there for forever, and you can go to it and receive a bonus for saving it, or perhaps there's a special resource you can only get from there, or is easy to acquire there, for example, cheaply or something like that. And then if you don't, then it's burned to the ground, and you have to can be able to rebuild it. Or
sounds like it's a game that you definitely want to min-max.
You do definitely want to min-max. And as long as you don't progress the story forward, you can replay missions to change the outcome. But as soon as you progress the story forward, it locks in your last decision. So, it's very challenging to get used to how the systems are integrated. It's a neat idea that it does not work well, sadly. It's very awkward to switch back and forth. If you could, perhaps if it was more focused on one or the other and just had more scant elements of the opposite one, it would be better. But it feels like they're trying to cram too many mechanics into the game. It can be very fun in spells, but it also can be very frustrating. So it's tough. I enjoyed the game more than I was frustrated with it, which is why I decided to talk about it in a more positive manner as opposed to a more negative manner. But it's definitely tough to try and figure out what it is that you're doing. The game also, if you're bothered by graphics, does not look that great. It came out in early 2014, so it's not that old, but when it came out, it looked dated. So if you're bothered by graphics, this is not a game for you. And some other RPG elements, obviously there's character leveling. Wouldn't be an RPG without character leveling.
Of course.
And honestly, now that I'm remembering, because it's been a while since I've played this, they did cram a lot of MMO elements into it too.
So get me some bear asses.
Pretty much, yeah. Go get some bear asses. Go get some special silver ore or whatever.
Which is completely different from ass bears.
Absolutely different than ass bears. So, it's pretty mixed. if you can put up with the awkward transition between the two different gameplay styles, there's a lot of stuff crammed into this game. And the story is pretty solid, too. You don't need to play the first Spellforce to understand. They do a pretty good job of explaining what has happened before going into this game. And then the story itself is, outside of that, is self-contained. So, you don't have to worry too much about knowing the previous story. Normally the game is $20. It's on sale for 75% off, so it's $5. I think it's worth $5. Given the conflicting kind of gameplay styles and mechanics, it'd be a tough sell at 20. You'd have to really be hurting for something in this kind of genre. But for $5, it's definitely worth it. You'll play the first few hours and decide whether or not you like it. And $5 is definitely within impulse buy range for a lot of people. So those are my two games.
Okay, so about time to wrap this thing up, and then
Yep, at the 3 hour, 40-minute mark.
drink. Oh, all right. Well, what are you doing next week on your channel? And are you doing anything next week on your channel?
Well, this coming, let's see. So you hear this on Friday. I'm leaving on a trip Wednesday to go see my sister-in-law graduate high school. And then, which makes me feel old. But, so I'll be gone for a week. We should still be good to record on Tuesday as far as I know, but if something comes up, obviously we'll work it out. You guys will still get content.
Yeah, somehow. We may have to unleash Franken episode 2 already.
Yeah, or maybe like do a short recording while I'm there. It's going to be pretty busy at the house, so don't really expect much from me next week at all.
Chloroform.
That actually might be a good time for me to catch up on Terraria episodes. I could render them all before I leave, and then just boop, 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 actually schedule them. So either there will be nothing, or
Yeah, then you'll schedule too many. It's like, wait, what are you scheduling that one for?
either there will be too many Terraria episodes or nothing at all. Which, I mean, that's a pretty simple run through, but I mean, I'm going to be on a trip. Although when I come back from the trip, my wife is spending an extra week in Colorado with her family, so I'll be home by myself for a week. So I'm hoping to start releasing the Factorial content during that week, but I mean, we'll talk more about that next time once I know how far I've progressed.
And I wonder if we'll actually get some extra recording in this time around.
We'll see. I'm not bound up in Eve this time, but I am bound up in Factorio, so we'll see.
So you're into bondage.
Yeah, I am. Wrap me up in those conveyor belts, baby.
And while you say where you are, I need to step away for just a moment.
Absolutely. You can find me on YouTube at Gaming Psychologist, or by searching for Gaming Psychologist, rather. You can find me on Twitter at JMA4707. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/jarthur4707.
Okay, my turn?
Your turn.
Okay, well, things on my channel are pretty much static right now. I'm deep into one series with Darksiders. Last Remnant is still ongoing. It's still pretty early in the series, but I'm several hours into it thanks to me running, triple episodes?
Yeah, nearly hour-long episodes.
Can you blame me for that, though? I mean, really?
No, I don't blame you at all.
I'm still expecting not to finish that game till November. But it was like the only way I could get through that game in 2016. Because honestly, even editing it down, it would be so long. And I did realize that I didn't have turbo mode turned on. Because it has this thing where it shows turbo mode on. Left button.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that's off. It does that annoying thing where if it shows it's on, it's off. And if it says turbo mode off, it's on. Hate it when it does that, don't you?
Yeah, I hate that sort of thing. Oh, there was my dog sneezing into the mic.
Yeah, so it should go faster in battle, but at the same time, I figured out that I'm looking at about 52 minutes per episode right now before editing, so it's still going to be a very, very long time before I'm done with that game.
let's see. In the third series is of course Terraria, which is still going to be ongoing for a long time as well. I have long-going episodes, don't I?
Yes, you do.
Or long-going series.
Long-running series.
Yeah, Darksiders. It's. I think I recorded episode 40 just the other night. So yeah, that's going to be quite a while as well. Looking forward to playing something new, to be honest.
Like Factorio.
When I'm not rendering. But I don't think I'm good enough to put that on the YouTubes. I need like another 20 or 30 hours. Yeah, like some people.
Yeah, like me.
Or some time with Kyle.
Yeah. 2 hours with Kyle set me straight. I mean, I would have figured all that out.
No comment.
But it would have taken me probably another 5 or 6 hours.
I mean, set you straight. Oh, okay.
He's that good.
I mean, you had enough, and it's like, no, I don't need any more now.
I mean, I had enough of him, if you know what
and
I'm
of course,
saying.
well, the podcast on Fridays, and then the Sunday sampler, which I don't even know what I'm playing this week, like usual. It's always a surprise to both me and you.
Yep.
Just, I get the surprise first. It really depends on what the Game Theory gives to me, my review codes. And you can find all that over on Gaming with Caffeine Rage on YouTube, or see me tweet occasionally on Gaming with CR on Twitter. And I do appear on Jared's streams as well.
Yeah, you do.
Because you just can't quit me.
No, I can't. Can't get enough of your love, baby.
Oh, yeah. So, I think it's about time to close this complete mess out and let you try to edit this thing down.
You always say that. It's not that bad most of the time.
Maybe it's just I'm seeing what goes into it, and I don't know how the sausage is made.
Oh, talking about sausage. Wink.
Well, we do have a Patreon over on patreon.com/VGL podcast. And once again, a very special thanks to Be Cool for, being cool and giving us some money. We are professionals now.
Yeah, we are.
And until we get some more money over there, we also need to throw a special thank you to the Internet Archive for unknowingly putting up with our bullshit.
Hours and hours of bullshit.
Yes, 40-some hours. Almost 2 days worth. And if you want to reach us, and I forgot to do this during the community corner, you could email us over at vglpodcast@gmail.com with your letters and voicemails, or gaming-related topics, or just tweet them to VGL Podcast on Twitter. And don't forget, we are not just YouTube podcasters. We do have a proper RSS feed, and on iTunes, our RSS feed can be found over at videogamelogicpodcast.blogspot.com.
Yep, and you can find us on iTunes simply by searching for Video Game Logic.
Yeah, and before long, you'll get on the whole Google Play thing.
Yeah, that could be my project while I'm gone on my trip.
Yeah, completely break the RSS feed to try to get on Google Play.
Yeah, break it. Horribly break it.
Just back it up first.
Yeah.
And our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and you can find his work at Computech.com.
And as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, plus just people going back and watching like the Ghostbusters series, which I think that's partly just all the kerfuffle going on around the Ghostbusters train wreck that's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, which by the way, did you see James Rolfe is a horrible sexist?
No,
because he said that he's not going to do a review on the Ghostbusters movie.
What a sexist. There's absolutely no way he could be boycotting that because he thinks it's going to be a bad movie. It must be that he's a raging sexist.
Well, he is raging.
Okay.
I mean, if you've ever watched his videos, make sure that's off. Oh. And a little bit of outtake already.
Oh, yeah.
Is your dog okay?
Yeah, she's coughing. She's fine.
Get her asthma inhaler?
She just had too much water to drink.
Oh, I know that feeling.
She waddled over here from a water bowl and, like, just stared at me. It's like, all right, I'll pick you up. You cute little fluffy thing, you. Give me a kissy. Oh, your breath stinks. Jesus. What'd you eat? Never mind, I don't want to know.